So yeah, just give us the usual, born, raised, what he was into as a kid and that kind of stuff. Just a brief rundown of that.
Yeah, well, born in Doncaster, 1970, which sounds like a long time ago now. And moved to a town called Retford in Nottinghamshire when I was a couple of years old. It was a lovely big old house, big garden, old rectory. I just remember from a really young age just pissing around in the garden on my bike. And
Okay.
It was, I did look it up actually. It was a rally spider bike. It was yellow,
All right.
sort of 26-inch wheel, and we just put like cow horn handlebars on and just started making jumps in the garden.
Customised the bike.
Yeah,
like that,
took the front brake off and my dad had taken me to some motorbike trials, Netherthorpe Woods nearby. He was more into sort of car racing and stuff. I just remember messing around on bikes at such an early age.
At a young age, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, when I saw BMX, it was like, well,
That's it.
that's the bike. Some friends had got grifters and what was the other one? The Chopper, and there was a Commando or something.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
So there was a few like that, but as soon as we saw BMX, it was like, oh, that's
the one.
That's the bike we need. So yeah.
How early was that, do you think? Where did you see that first BMX?
Yeah, I thought about that. I think it was possibly a rally burner poster on the side of the road going into Doncaster.
Oh, no way.
I just remember it
billboard,
sort of like a billboard by a
wow.
bus stop, and it was probably Sid Salisbury doing a skid.
Okay, I think I know the poster. Yeah.
And I'm sure I don't remember anything before that. I think that was the thing.
Okay.
And then of course when we knew it existed, then they started selling them in the shops, and that was it. BH California.
Was your first bike?
First bike.
Wow. I think were they French maybe? I think that company was French.
Was it? Yeah.
Things like BH. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Quite a fat frame, quite big, and.
I remember them vaguely. Where did you get the bike from?
There wasn't a shop in Retford at the time, so it would have been Worksop or Doncaster or somewhere else.
Okay.
But yeah, I went and bought it, and then my brother John got a rally burner, like the standard, red and yellow one.
Yeah.
And then obviously it was just like, as soon as I got that bike, I just didn't want to do anything else. So I kind of outgrew it pretty quick.
Yeah. Broke it, did you either say?
No, I don't think I broke that one. I think I got a Ultra burner pretty soon, and then my brother Mick got my old BH California.
What's the age difference in the brothers?
There's actually only 5 years between all four of us.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But obviously that's that I'm the eldest, and that's quite a big gap when I was 11 or 12.
Of course, yeah. So it goes.
Chris was 8 or something.
You, John, Mick, Chris.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then I met a kid at school was also into it. A guy called Barnaby Smith. And we set up a little team. We started doing demos, and
so you've seen a mag at this point.
Yeah,
you must have done.
I think it was again. I couldn't remember a kind of clear moment, but I think it was probably the first issue of BMX Action Bike.
Oh, okay.
And I was just in a magazine shop and couldn't believe it. It was like it was just there on the shelf, and thought, oh, this has been sent to me. It was like summoned it. It was like, well, we may have been to. There's like Gainsborough Cycle Centre was quite good. There was a track there, so probably went there. Maybe some other kids.
Was that Doncaster?
No, Gainsborough.
Oh, Gainsborough. Okay.
I don't think there's.
I remember they had ads. I remember the ads in the old action bikes, like little ads.
Yeah, it was a cracking shot, really good. And then we, so probably been out a little bit, maybe seen BMX Bi-Weekly.
Yeah.
But this certainly the first magazine I remember clearly like getting excited about seeing would be issue 1 of BMX Action Bike. So yeah, that's that was it. And then me and Barnaby started, just riding all the time, getting quite good, doing shows. We got asked to do like a village fete or something.
Okay. So did you have a quarter pipe to?
No, we just had a trick ramp. That's it.
Okay.
Just a wedge ramp, and there was a skate park in Retford, like 70s council thing. Yeah. I found out recently because every time I go back to Retford, I can't believe it's still there. Cause
it's still there now?
Still there, and it's because apparently it was built on top of some kind of toxic waste.
Oh, no way.
So it can never be developed for house because nobody wants to. It was basically a big concrete slab to basically cap in all the fucking crap or something that was buried under there. Because it's not a prime area, but it's they definitely get some houses on there.
Yeah,
no one wants to touch it. So it's still there, and it's next to a kind of pig slaughterhouse as well. So it was quite a gnarly place to go. It was pretty vicious. So we went there a bit, and then just the demo thing just.
Was that skate park built as a skate park? Or
in the 70s. Yeah. And it was quite good. It had this sort of big round track, we called it the pinball, because you could sort of bomb around there as fast as you can and then just jump out the mellow bowl. So I think that was.
And that was the first spot you went to ride, I guess, right?
I guess. Well, I mean, the first spot was in our garden.
Yeah, I mean, outside of
there. Yeah, first spot out of Retford would be in Retford would be the skate park. And then the shows just kind of kicked off. We'd do a slightly bigger show. Somebody would come up to us and say, we're having a village fete or something next week. Can you do that? We'd get paid like 20 or 30 quid, and
just the two of you.
Just the two of us.
Cool. Was there other people riding the skate park at this point, or is it like early days?
Yeah,
okay.
Grifter crew and be a few others.
Yeah.
But it was I was so focused on doing the shows and riding with Barnaby and riding, because I could ride on the tarmac at home. I probably didn't travel or explore as much.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting listening to Al on his, when he interviewed him. He filled in loads of kind of background stuff for me that I just wasn't aware of.
Because everyone came to you, right? For, I guess for a while. So
and like I say, doing these shows and things, and so. There was a few of us there at the start, and then suddenly Elle and Sid and Sean, suddenly, they were there, and then that was it. They were there the whole time, but I wasn't really aware of it. It wasn't like a gradual build-up for me. It was like, and then that was it.
Other guys,
It was the same crew.
They was all there that early, like 82 or something, they started coming around?
I don't know. I think that's what, Elle knew them before. I think he travelled to Worksop and a bit further afield. So and then what happened? Sort of got sponsored by a local bike shop.
What shop was that? Gainsborough?
It's called Jag Cycles.
Okay, I recognise that one as well.
And then
where were they? Were they Sheffield?
No, they were in Retford.
Okay,
tiny little shop, and. And we were called the Retford and District Trick Team. So Retford and District was, RAD.
Yeah.
And it's so, I'll dig out pictures. I made some T-shirts with T-shirt poster paint.
All right.
And it was a RAD vertically down the front of the shirt. I mean, just can't believe it now. And that was obviously a couple of years
previous,
before Nick. And I'm not, suggesting that he'd seen that in any way, but it was, it's kind of funny when I look back. So I've kind of forgotten about those shirts because we probably only made 4. She had to paint them by hand. So that was, remembering that was kind of funny.
That was a common term at that point, in BMX as well. So I guess maybe a lot of people use that.
Yeah.
How did that develop? I saw pictures of you guys when you had like a track in your garden. Like it looked like some dirt and like a couple of ramps and that. That would have been before you met those guys.
Yeah, some of them probably came to the house, you know,
To ride that.
slightly different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a little. There's like a tree at the end of the garden, and we just sort of built a little berm around it.
Okay.
And we have a traffic cone and just bomb up and down there.
Yeah.
And then eventually we built a quarter pipe at on the tarmac at the top, and then we just lent like an old door against a tree. There's like at the end of the grass. There's like some little woodland area. But initially it was just a door lent against a tree, and we'd kind of bomb across the grass into the trees and then hit this kind of really
like a
terrible, kicked up quarter pipe thing. And then that turned into the first half pipe. So there was a kind of tree opposite it, which is kind of perfect for building another.
And what was that like in the corner of the ground of your house?
Yeah. By the kind of wall. I've got a good shot of it. It looks like you
can kind of tell in some of the photos that it's like in that corner, like in the streets next to it, right?
Yeah, right by the wall. So we rode that for a bit, and then got a better quarter pipe with a trailer. Sorry, on the trailer. Started doing shows a bit further up afield.
How did you know how to build a quarter pipe?
I don't know. I guess it was in the BMX magazine.
Okay.
And then by the time we'd gone to some competitions and seen, the Vincent Frames ones.
Okay. That's later, right?
Yeah, a bit later.
Yeah. So what was the first event that you went to see?
I did a BMX race in 1982.
Okay.
Bessica Buccaneers, in some woods in Doncaster. I think that must have been on my BH. And,
that's real early, yeah.
Yeah, and actually won it, which was really odd because I wasn't. It's the only race I ever won, but mainly to do with just having a really good starting position. It was like straight and then like a sort of 90-degree corner. So if you're on the inside line, you like had like half the distance to go to the guy on the outside.
Was it a real track or something they just mocked up for that?
It was. It was. They'd kind of mocked it up, but they'd been riding it enough for it to kind of develop.
Okay.
But, I did that, and then obviously did a bit of racing. Raced at Gainsborough, but just always, wanted to jump, mess around and ride. And then went to Chorley. My granny lived over in Lancashire. We went over to Chorley, and they had an amazing track there. It was in a quarry.
Okay.
And I was there once, and they'd got an old like Perspex 1970s half pipe, with like no flat bottom, which they'd obviously just dumped it there.
Yeah. After the skateboard.
I just started riding that between motos, and then that was it.
Was it set up to ride?
Yeah, you could ride it, and I think then I kind of realised I just wasn't that bothered about racing. I wanted to do that, and then there was a moment at Gainsborough where I saw somebody do a tail whip
on the flat,
foot jam, tail whip on the flat, and when I saw that, so up until that point, tricks were all like kind of frame stands and bunny hops, and suddenly when I saw that, I was like, I want to be doing that kind of stuff, and I guess. Just stopped racing, and then it was full time. And riding a lot of flatland as well. Was always really into that as well. So
like the basic like wheel stands and like.
No, I got quite into flatland
after the tail whip.
Yeah, that was it. Tail whip's always that was always my thing. I think that was such a key trick. And I remember once trying to do tail whip air to fakie. When I had a bike with a coaster, I could just got this idea that I could do tail whips on the ground. So I couldn't imagine doing a tail whip air, but I just had this idea that you could go up a quarter pipe, kind of do it.
This is before the tail whip air was even invented.
I kind of tried it a couple of times, and I was like, that's never going to happen. Doing fakey stuff with a coaster. And then when I finally learned tail whip airs, years later, it was just like such a massive trick for me. It took so long, because it was like a real commitment thing. I kind of got the technique, but I just couldn't stomp it and get the feedback on. So that kind of, tail whips, that's kind of defining trick for me, really game-changing thing to see.
And what was like, what's the, like, who's riding the quarter with you? Like, once you got a newer quarter, like, did you build it out of wood? Or was it metal frame? Like,
It was wood initially, and then we built one
Like the second
on
one?
a trailer.
Okay,
Yeah,
the trailer one.
Yeah, the
Was
trailer
that
one.
metal? Or?
Those metal
no way.
rolled metal transitions, and
So how did you get that built?
so the family business is like selling and renting trailers, like big HGV trailers. So we've got a welding shop.
Oh, no way.
So we got the bits of angle iron rolled, specialist, and then built it up at the workshop basically.
Oh wow, lucky, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was ace. And then when we then took that little half pipe down and rebuilt the first kind of generation of the half pipe, that little ramp was part of it.
All right.
So that you could then take that bit down and tow it to a show, and then bring it back, and it was part of the structure.
It's pretty tech, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a gap between, because we were making the rest of the ramp bigger all the time, and this little quarter pipe, was just.
How did you do you remember how you got the measurements and the info for the metal frame quarter?
I think we were already. We must have ridden Vincent Frames ramps were 8-foot transition, weren't there? Something.
Yeah,
this was 7 foot or something.
In 85 or something, they was.
So I guess we'd seen some of that. I'm not sure. There weren't really exact moments where I kind of saw things and thought, oh, we've, in terms of the ramps, it was just a lot of it seemed obvious. The ramp's got to be bigger, it's got to be curved, or but yeah, there was some of the plans in Action Bike or whatever. You'd see that.
Yeah. They was like strut ones for ages. Remember that? That was terrible. It was really hard to get them curved.
Went to that NEC, the Hudson NEC. That was definitely massive. But I remember, obviously, the show that Bob Harrow did was amazing. But the thing that really was kind of did it for me was seeing Chris Young and probably, I don't know,
Andy Preston was there,
maybe, or
Ruffle.
somebody like Ralph Tribe or somebody. There was riders in the practice area.
Okay, Billy Stupple.
Those guys, and I remember seeing their. And that just seemed we could be doing this. I mean, the Harrow show was so glitzy and next level.
Yeah.
You couldn't really imagine yourself doing that. But the practice area and the quarter pipe and seeing those other guys,
Oh, no way.
What year was that?
I'd say that was 83.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'd be 12 or 13.
Yeah.
All
you guys went?
Probably just me and John.
Okay.
I think Mick might have been a bit too small and not.
Because did you go to race or?
No, just went.
You just went to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, you're pretty connected then. If you knew that was happening.
Yeah, I don't know where that would be an advert in Action Bike. So, did that. That was definitely a big influence. Yeah.
Ralph Tribe is a name that don't come up very often on here. No. He's one of my favourites.
Is he? Yeah. Yeah, he might. I mean, it might not have been him, but it was certainly Chris Young. Chris Young,
underground sort of guys.
Yeah, but those guys seem more relatable.
Yeah.
Whereas Bob Harrow just seemed some kind of god.
Yeah, superstar.
Yeah. So.
So that would have been because that was a metal frame quarter pipe like that as well, even that early. So.
Yeah.
I think was it.
The one he did the show on, but in the practice area, I think there was a wooden one, which was really underworked, which was probably exactly like that drawing in the magazine.
Okay.
So, what happened then? We just kept doing the shows, building the half pipe bigger and bigger. The first generation.
So how early did you build a half? Because I delved into this before. I was thinking this is really early for a half pipe, and most people, there was only really Mons, Chingford. There was very few. Crouch End, there was one, but this is you guys had a half pipe in 85 or something.
I think so. Yeah.
Which is super early.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
That's right.
I remember trying to count. I remember at one point trying to count them up, how many we thought were in the country, and I think we counted 10.
Oh, really?
And we were really. That was all the skate ones.
Yeah, we would have been. Farnborough,
Warrington, Farnborough, and it was. Yeah, there really weren't many. So. Yeah, the first one was really wonky. It had loads of flat bottom. The flat bottom was basically made out of these big, like, advertising hoardings that builders, like when they were doing development, have these big boards up saying, a house is coming here or whatever. And then once they built the houses, they just discard them. We got like 6 of those and just laid them on this kind of dirt.
No way.
So the first half pipe had loads of flat bottom because it was mainly BMX, weren't really skating then. And then part of it was the mobile quarter pipe that we then take out. And then what happened? I remember Dave Slade came to the house, and him and his mate Lee Brown, they brought their skateboards, and this was when the first kind of 10-inch wide, bright pink Pal Peralta decks.
Yeah, like
I'd seen my cousins who were older than me, they'd had some of those little, plastic polyprop ones, and we just never were into that. Yeah. I remember Dave and Lee bringing these boards, and we were like, oh yeah, that's I can do that. And then. When we finally rebuilt the half pipe properly, we had loads less flat bottom, and then it had a proper structure. And by this point, we sold the demo ramp and stopped doing that.
Okay.
Because that just wasn't. It was good, but it was like you get paid. You have to drive for an hour or two, which needed a parent to drive it, and then it'd be all day waiting to do a show on some bit of grass or something.
How long did they go for?
30 quid.
Was that like a year or 2 years? You think?
I think it was a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. And then at some point, the competition. There were competitions at the weekend, and it was like, well, actually, I prefer to be hanging around with other riders and going to a competition than doing a show at a school fete, for 30 quid on some grass.
Yeah.
So, there was one show we did where the council made the quarter pipe.
Okay.
And we sent them a drawing. It's going to have a transition, and it wants to be 8 foot high and 8 foot wide. And they basically made a wedge ramp, which was 8 foot high with a foot of vert.
Is this the one that Sean Allison was
Sean,
at? Yeah, you sent it. I see the pictures. Yeah, it's completely
that was hilarious.
Like a little curve on top. Yeah.
And they'd made it really well. They'd obviously spent loads of money on it.
Wow.
And we arrived at this show and just looked, and we just saw it in the distance, this sort of grass, and all the local Sheffield riders were there. Sorry, workshop riders, and no one was riding it. And then as we got close, we realised why. But we went up it and dropped in on it.
Yeah.
Which was just hilarious, But no, generally we took our own ramp, and that stopped. It got sold, and we just then started going to the Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night sessions at Alfreton and Ripley Leisure Centre.
Okay.
Ones that Bessie used to go to. That Diane and Roy Winfield organised, and Mark Atkins' dad was, there was a good crew of parents who wanted to get that going. And then the BFA contests,
Yeah, what was can you remember the first BFA contest you went to?
No, I can't.
Did you go to the sports centre one in was it Alfreton, where they had like a one-off, like Sean won it, I think.
Probably. Don't remember. But they all blend because they're all sports.
Yeah, they're all the same.
The lighting's all the same. Yeah. It was all the same ramps. So, but that was it. And I was riding flatland and ramps, and I was kind of an overall. It was called overall. Used to get the prize for the overall, the highest. And that was ace. And then I was 16 plus. 16 expert or something. Who
did you meet at the BFA thing? Do you remember meeting other because you've got a crew that you're going with, right? Like Retford, Worksop, Sheffield kind of crew. Did you ever go to the YMCA thing they used to do? Okay.
Went once with Slade. That was hilarious. Yeah. They tried to throw us out, or the time had run out, and we had to get out of the hall and move the quarter pipe.
Okay.
And we just put the quarter pipe against the door, so they couldn't get in. It was not. Yeah, it was pretty. I was quite sort of little, sheltered. Kind of grew up in this sort of nice house in a little town, and then going to Sheffield and seeing that kind of Dave's kind of aggression and approach to it all. It was quite different. It was like, these guys are messing around. And seeing Dave do 540s with kind of the coast brake locked on, and that was good. I did go just once to the Hotel Juncker. But who did we meet? So I'd be riding with, in 16 plus it was Graham Marfleet and Jason Hassel originally, and then Eric Steele, and so I'd be in the 16 plus, Mick would be in the 14 plus, he'd ride with Dave Frame and
Mackie, is it?
Mackie and Simon Tabron, so they were really tight, which was really nice, and then me and Graham and Eric, we were sort of, one of us would win, and then
that was like the battle for free.
And then Eric would usually crash.
Well, Eric couldn't move up, could he? Can you remember that he couldn't, because he didn't ride flatland, he could never move up until they changed
something
it.
Like that. He'd always crash, apart from that time when at Whole Shot, where I think I'd done quite well, and I thought, oh, I'm finally going to win bloody 16 plus expert rounds. And then Eric pulls the 540 over the canyon, and he looks as shocked, as shocked as ever. We're all like, why? Because I used to do it, proper. I always used to call them McTwists, because it wasn't like a horizontal spin. It was like the way
he put his head right into it.
He'd lean his head.
Well, he's goofy as well, so his weight was already in.
It just looks so much more closer to a McTwist on a skateboard, so it was just mental. I remember that really well, thinking, fucking...
What Whole Shot would that have been? The McCoy Whole Shot?
The second, not the first one.
The second one was Wilkerson and Rich Segura.
Yeah.
So did you go to all the Whole Shots?
I think we did, yeah.
First one was the British Champs.
Spectated at the first one, I think.
Then the second one you rode at, which was Wilkerson and...
Oh no, I did ride in the first one, but I didn't qualify. I didn't get through the cut. I went with Barnaby, so it was when he was still riding, because he then kind of gave up.
Okay.
He didn't... After we stopped doing the shows, got to sort of 16 or whatever, he kind of gave up. And by that point, Mick was, he'd be... 12 or 13, and he'd be riding a bit better. Then John, my brother, he'd be riding, and the scene kind of moved to the half, around the half pipe rather than the sort of BFA, from the quarter pipes and riding flatland and that kind of competitive format. Kind of moved to.
So the Whole Shot that Eric did, the 540, must have been the Dennis McCoy one, I guess.
It's the one where they had the half pipe.
Oh, okay. So that was late, yeah. That was
can't believe how many. Were there 3 or 4 of them?
4.
Was there?
But the first one was known as the British Champs. It wasn't really. It was put on by Whole Shot Promotions. It was known as the British Champs.
Yeah, we went. Like I say, we went to the first one, and then I think on the second one, that was where we got into action bike, where we'd arrived the night before and we wanted to practice and ride, but we weren't allowed to. Was that one? Yeah.
This picture.
Yeah, where we're looking miserable.
Where you're looking. Yeah, I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, Tim came and that's that's so funny. Yeah, look like I'm right.
So is that you?
That's me. Look how young Chris looks.
Is that?
Yeah. That's brother Chris, and that's a guy called Stephen Brodie. He had a quarter pipe in his garden as well. Yeah.
He had a quarter pipe.
High, 6 foot wide. Went to vert, and it was one of those where it didn't really have much run in, but went to vert.
Okay.
So it was, I remember
it was
riding that, proper kicky. So
that was 86, that one there.
Right, we'd gone down the night before and went to stay in stayed in some grotty hotel, and we went along in the evening, and we weren't allowed in, even though Neil Ruffle and Craig Campbell,
oh really?
They were all there practicing, and we were like, well, we've got our bikes, why can't we ride? And said, no, you're not allowed to. So and Tim was there taking pictures, so he came and. So
was this taken that evening?
That evening, the night before, yeah. And then we, that's where I guess we told Tim that we'd built a half pipe in the garden, and then of course we, he got.
That's your connection. That's where the connection
started. Yeah.
Oh,
and
amazing.
And then we kept in touch, and then eventually he phoned up and said, come up and take some pictures. So that's that's funny seeing that.
Yeah.
Look about 11.
Yeah, I didn't even.
I was a bit of a late developer. I was probably 16 there, and I looked really young then.
You could still tell. Still tell with Nick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure who the guy in the Action Zone top was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered this story, that photo.
Yeah.
But You came down and stayed in a hotel on your own? No parents?
Dad drove us down.
Okay.
The whole car full of us. And,
all right.
Yeah, probably never been to London.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, Finsbury Park back then was crazy.
Yeah. Just, I remember we parked in the middle of the road because everyone else was parked there, but when we got up in the morning, our car was like the only one there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just... do
you remember where the hotel was? Was it just like around the corner?
Somewhere nearby. Did you go to that one? Did you go to them all?
Yeah. I didn't go to the first and second. I went to the ones after, the two after.
The Michael Sobel Sports Centre.
Yeah.
Who was
still
Michael?
there?
Yeah. Who's Michael Sobel?
Good question. I don't even know. But it was. Did you see all the fanfare a few years ago where they were like, "We're going to do it again. We're going to do the whole shot in Sobel
Yeah,
Centre."
I heard that. And
so
Ruffle. Yeah.
There's where they used to do it. There's all like machines, fitness machines, bolted into the floor.
Right.
Like you couldn't do anything in there whatsoever.
Halls?
In that hall, that main hall.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Well, there was like 5 years ago when they were talking about doing it because I was there. I went to meet someone. They was doing ice skating,
right?
And I went and had a look at the old hall, and there was just all kinds of cycling bikes and like fitness things.
Yeah.
All that, like.
It was amazing riding in those sports centres. It was so, just like the reflection, the lights reflecting off your bike, and having that smooth surface, and because you never got that when you were out. Riding in town or a square or a bit of concrete.
And I always remember you could ride when it was dark out, and that was one of the big things. We're cheating it here, like
No, we definitely had a laugh at some of those Alfreton and Ripley, regular sessions.
Yeah,
there's one with me and Jamie Beswick. I remember it, and we got the two quarter pipes and we were doing alley oops across it, and we just kept moving the. I've got a few photos, but I was often the person doing the pictures, and there wasn't a lot of video. But that's definitely something I wish there was a video of.
Alley-oop in the gap.
Alley-oop in the gap, and moving it. Yeah. I think we were pretty. Well, you don't know. You see, it sounds like it's like that fish. That fish I caught. It was definitely this big, but I was really into alley-oops, and I think it was. I'm gonna say
because the quarters 12 foot.
12 foot
that's
alley-oop.
Huge, yeah.
Between two.
And how wide were the quarters?
6 foot wide quarters.
Yeah, that's massive. Yeah. But they're 6 foot, not 8 foot. There's probably 8 foot.
Were they? Yeah, it could have been.
Would have been a BFA quarter.
No, but I remember they had these small ones and then they had the big one. But anyway. But it's probably one of those fish stories where it probably wasn't dropped. But I remember being absolutely scared and on the edge and thinking, and when I stopped, it was absolutely that is the limit. That is the limit for me. But I was really into those for a while. Really lovely.
Where did you
feeling.
Where did you see the alley oop first?
I don't know, but that alley oop thing was, I think, because we always hung around with skaters. That idea, that always seemed normal. I guess that's a standard skating thing to do. It's the alley oop stuff. So alley oop 50-50 grind.
Yeah, alley oop grind is exactly what I was falling on. Yeah, but so an alley oop air. I remember Jason Lunn was doing it at Chinkford one day when I was there, and that was the first time I saw him. I was like, whoa, what is that? I couldn't figure it out for a while. Yeah,
I don't know. Loved them.
But it's so dangerous yet so basic, and especially when you put that hole in the middle, it becomes ultimately dangerous.
Yeah, there's something about I don't know, spatial awareness or just trusting on it. Because you're moving backwards. There is something really lovely about it.
Yeah, it's one I still do them. Yeah. And I'm totally agreement. They're so you've got to just rely on yourself to go.
And you can kind of pull it back in. It's not like once you've committed, that's it. You're going to land in exactly that spot. You can, you can pull it back in a bit earlier. And obviously, at some point, you run out of height and momentum, and you fucked. You have to turn. But you can turn a bit earlier.
You can also, what I've noticed when I mess them up, sometimes I can under rotate them, and they're still all right. They just don't come out pointing the other way, but they don't. So it's kind of.
I think it was always a thing at our ramp because obviously you know, L's alley-oop turn down. They were legend. You know, they were amazing. I mean, it was kind of his signature trick for a while, and they were huge.
Well, that was when a turn down had only really just popped out, and
I think it's because we had a roll in and a canyon on that.
So it was natural
ramp, and there was something about that, that kind of made you want to jump across it.
Once you jumped it.
They were fun. I was thinking about that. The tricks that I actually like doing. I remember trying to learn no-handers and just like, no, I don't want to learn that because the bike just didn't feel stable. Well, of course, it wouldn't be. You're not holding on to the bars. But like 1 foot tables, turn downs, look backs, 540s, tail whips. They're all involved like really grabbing the bars quite tight and like wrestling the bike. And all the grinds and disasters I was into, like they made noise.
They feel good. The grind feels good.
It felt good, and I think it's similar with alley-oops. You know, I was quite almost like there was a kind of sensual element to it. I was like, it's hedonistic. I'm doing these tricks because they physically feel good to me, rather than I'm doing this trick because everyone else does it, or it's
because it's scary and I want to do it. And see what it feels like.
It's like no, I want to do the stuff that actually feels.
Well, the 540 is pretty. Like I think that's a dangerous trick as well, though.
Yeah.
Like I'd say that was more dangerous than a no-hander, but I know what you mean. A no-hander just seems like ultimate death. But 540 seems when you crash them. You don't really know you're going to crash. Usually, don't know until it's on the floor.
Most amazing feeling when you do one at the right height, and it's one of those where kind of doing them higher was easier than doing them lower. I'd done them when I was really young with a coaster brake, like doing a 360 roll out, half up, but that was not really any help.
I
remember when I learned them, but I did my first tail repair. Dave Slade was at the ramp. He'd been filming for. Smart people in car crash, and I pulled my first one, and it was just like forever taking to stomp it. And I pulled it, and then I basically just did a couple more airs, and then tried a sort of 540 about 1.5 to 2 foot out. Having never really tried one, but I was like, right, can do anything now.
Power up,
And I crashed, but I got round close enough to realise I could do it. But I kind of miss that feeling, and I'm probably not going to do another one.
What, the feeling of 540?
Doing the 540, just that's there's a blind spot, obviously, where
the commitment spot. I think that's the same as an alley-oop. If you're alley-ooping properly, there should be like a commitment spot. Like because some people just kind of swing round, don't they?
I know. That's. Where are we up to?
But can you remember like meeting Ellis? Because he had a good story about you guys meeting. It was the 270 drop-in, the myth of the 270 drop-in. Is that right? Yeah, can you remember that?
I remember hanging my front wheel up, and I remember getting the quarter pipe onto the grass, so we could learn drop-in variations. So we just drag the demo ramp out, put it on the grass. So. That was our foam pit. that was it. It'd just be hurt slightly less, and you had to pedal really fast. And then, of course, as soon as you hit the plywood, it went really quick. So you couldn't really judge your speed. We once did a show in the park actually, and we set this little quarter pipe up. It was 6 foot high, 4 foot wide. Went to vert. And we set it up, and at this point we could do airs about a foot out, but we could pop up and do rollbacks. It was quite early, and my brother John, we set it up, and this was before the show started, and we were just getting used to it. And he just cranked at it, and I told him, "You're going to have to pedal a bit faster because the ground's bumpy." And he just cranked at it, did a really sketchy 4 foot air, and landed it, and that was like. Twice as high as we were ever going to go in the show, and the highest air he'd done, he was getting about lip height up until this point. So,
did that change? Did that change everyone's perspective on it?
No, because we were all nobody really saw it apart from me and Barnaby. We were just like, well, that's a good job. No one saw that. That would have been the highlight. That would have been the highlight of the show.
I thought that would have been a breakthrough moment.
But John was like that. He'd got this sort of. He wasn't that. He wasn't riding all the time, and when he became a teenager, and there were sort of girls and hanging around the ramp, and he was getting more sociable,
Yeah.
and, not that committed, I guess, to riding, but he just had this sort of natural ability.
Okay.
And then the picture of him doing the invert.
Yeah, I always like that picture. Yeah.
Classic example. It might not have even been his bike. It might have been Mick's bike. He might not have had a bike at that point, and just came in and from nowhere did this. Just the most
bike,
amazing.
Yeah,
invert.
just looked completely upside down.
Never
that
done
was
one
really
like
early.
that before.
Okay.
Didn't do one since. Just rocked up and smashed it, and, then cleared, then cleared off. So that was there was funny times with those quarter pipes. But we tried some other stupid drop-in variations on that. Backwards drop-ins and 270s. Yeah, that would happen occasionally. Just bring the ramp out to the grass and try some of that kind of stuff.
And was that when you met Ellis, or did you go to another ramp that?
I don't remember. Actually.
Ellis had a story. It was about a 270 drop-in. This was a legendary trick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember it correctly. I think he said that you guys were like, everyone was hunting the 270 drop-in and he could do it, and you guys had heard he could do it. And if I remember rightly, you went to his local ramp and was like, "Are you the guy who can do the 270 drop-in?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Come on, then, let's have a look."
Yeah.
You have to do it. Yeah.
No, that could have been that could be an L. And then it was one of those. He wasn't there at the early days, but then suddenly he was there all the time, part of the crew, and then just fully part of the squad.
Staple, right? Yeah. So who was the staple like at this point? Like so if you go past Whole Shop, you must have taken things with you back. How innovative were you guys at this point, like in 85 or 86? Are you already coming up with different ways to ride?
No, I think that was a little bit later.
Okay.
I think when we rebuilt the half pipe and you could skate it.
All right.
That's when it all.
That's when it started changing.
I think that's when it really kicked off, because then we had Sean Allison's brother Stuart Allison was a really good skater, so the crew was basically, the regulars were like me, Mick, John, and my brother Chris, who'd been like a BMX racer because he was quite young, and then he'd switched to skating, and then it'd be a skater called Andy Wells, L. Sid, and there was Dino Squilino.
Oh yeah, I know that.
So he was a BMXer and then just kind of switched and became a really good skater.
Yeah.
There was a skater called Cookie from Barnsley, who was just
him,
really amazing guy. Died actually after a football incident. I know, it was horrendous. He got a kid and everything. I think about him a lot. It's he was such a nice guy, and really stoked to have got some good pictures of him. And
he wrote for Death Box, I think.
Yeah,
I remember him.
Just brilliant. So so there was a few skaters, and there's a guy called David Briggs as well, and I'm trying to think who else am I forgetting. Sean, obviously, Allison would come, but he was never really a half pipe rider, so he'd come and hang out and do a bit, and then we'd clear off into town and ride street or something, because he was rocking a coaster. I mean, I think he always rode a coaster.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's different, obviously, on a half pipe. That's when I eventually gave up my coaster. I hung on to it for quite a long time. That was the kind of standard, and it was a mixture, skating and BMXers. It wasn't a BMX thing. So I guess trying to be inspired by what the skaters were doing would learn.
Did you, after you'd been to that Whole Shop and saw McCoy ride, did you must have taken some stuff back from there? That seems like a real big turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah, that was the one before the half pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember McCoy's Flatland just seemed like super futuristic.
Yeah, he made me want to give up Flatland.
Oh, really?
It was just because I think I probably was still riding flat at that point, and then it was, that's next level. That's not, and I guess at that point it was more about the half pipe.
Yeah, you wanted to get,
so I didn't ride Flatland much after that. yeah, I don't remember anything else. Was that the one where? No, it was the one afterwards where it all changed. Really, with the half pipe.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Dave wrestled his bike.
Yeah.
Craig jumped over the. Yeah, because I remember arriving into the hall thinking, "Great, we get to ride the half pipe."
Oh, okay.
You know, and it was like, "No, you're gonna have to ride." And then, by that point, the quarter pipes just looked silly.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Kind of ridiculous because our ramp had been full kind of flow. But yeah, I guess the grinds and alley-oop stuff. Trying to, be inspired by skate moves, backside bonuses, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So was that at that whole trip with a half pipe? Was that like that? Because we was just young kids. We didn't really know anyone we knew people who rode them, but we didn't know it that well. Was that like going around the people that rode that event? Like, we should be riding this half pipe.
No,
because that's what Craig said when I.
Well, yeah, there was a few people who'd ridden, but like I say, there were only small number of
half pipes
anyway. So,
okay.
I don't think there wasn't enough of us because to a lot of people it looked really big. So it was like 2 foot, be 10 foot, 10 foot high as opposed to 8 foot. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of the bikers were like, no, let's just stick to the ramps we know. Yeah. But yeah, there was a couple of us who I'm sure would have preferred to ride that. But yeah, it was ace anyway. Just seeing Hudson and
all those American pros,
twist and stuff. It was it was ace, really good. But yeah, so I think that was more inspiring. But yeah, it kind of evolved, I think, just with the skaters, and occasionally you'd see something in a magazine or whatever. I guess the Camarillo ramp in the States, that would be an influence. And the big one I remember, I guess, was Jess's ramp in the woods.
Yeah.
I think when I first saw that ramp, I thought, oh, that's similar to what we're up to. Because he
had a half pipe in his garden.
Yeah, but he built a ramp in the woods.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It was like you say, like a wooden door up against the tree.
A bit like ours.
Okay.
And then the Enchanted ramp in California. That was the big one when I saw that because of the trees and the
That's a bit later, wasn't it?
That's a bit later. Yeah. But, I think it was just evolving, and the skate was really big influence on us. So
well, the skating was at that like 1986 and 87 where it was like really blowing up, wasn't it? So,
and just the fact that they do loads of lip tricks all the time.
And it looked way cooler as well.
Yeah, and BMX at that point there weren't any lip tricks. It was quarter pipe, crank up quarter pipe, which that was never my thing, and I couldn't. I got a bit scared of doing like big airs and stuff. I probably never did an air higher than 10 foot in my whole career, but I love watching Carlo or Canning or something, that sort of just crank at them. But that was never my style, never my thing, because I guess I just developed seeing, skaters put a run together, where it's not just air. It's lots of different lip tricks and variety.
Yeah, so it was using more of ramp really.
Yeah, not wanting to bore myself by doing granny airs and just having it. And also the noise. The noise of disasters it's just ace. When you do it as one trick, when you go up, you're coming straight in. It's not you're gonna hang out on the platform and spin your bars and have a cup of tea and then drop in. It's like you're coming back in on the way up.
Yeah.
And then you can make noise in it. You feel it through the platform and all that kind of stuff.
There's an expression to it. It's like, like you say when you was doing them other tricks like 540s and alley oops and stuff. It's like it's expressive, the motion to it, isn't it? Like there's a power to it. I think.
It feels good. And when I got back into did a bit of mountain biking later. And it was the same. The thing that really resonated and felt good was doing tabletops and stuff where you could crank the bike around. But that is such a different thing, the mountain biking. I mean, we ran 80, 90 psi in our tyres, and had a bike with a steep head tube. And if you move the bars,
twitchy,
the bike would do exactly what you told it to. And also, I realised that pumping, on a half pipe, we were kind of young and fairly fit, but it's not actually that physical. There's a lot of technique and whatever. You don't have to be really muscular. I mean, obviously you do now if you're doing, flips and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you need a certain amount of body. But as a mate, I was not a strong. I was quite weedy, and was not a strong kind of person.
It's like you say, it's technique. It's not. It's like land at the right place and do it at the right time. It's like.
And then I got on this blinking mountain bike, and although I didn't have much, like 120 travel, and it's quite a small frame, it was as close to a BMX as I could make it. And still, it's like steering an oil tanker. It's just like
that's
so.
A couple of my friends dabble in mountain bikes, and that's what they say that you can just get away with anything as well.
Yeah.
They say you get away with so much, but because of the wheels are big and because of the reaction is so slow. Like,
I did for a while, and then I didn't. So that was the end of mountain biking.
I've never done it. Yeah.
Don't.
No, I'm not intending to.
Yeah.
And then Mick was someone that I wanted to talk to you about, because Mick seemed to get good at a very young age.
Yeah.
And that was just from watching you guys, right? Was watching his older brothers, riding with his older brothers.
Yeah.
Because he had to pick doing the no-hander in action bike, and that was like a big benchmark trick at the time. Yeah. It was probably one of the first no-handers in print, even.
Is it?
If it's... I think that was 86 or 87, so it would have been early, really early.
Yeah, but we'd be full, the ramp would be sorted by 86, 87, the half pipe, and we'd, be full on sessions. We'd run home from school.
Okay.
Rig up lights, get ghetto blaster up there. In the winter,
so you had lights
we'd dry. Well? Yeah, we'd dry the ramp with old rags and stuff. We'd set it on fire.
Yeah, I remember that.
That didn't work. And every weekend, be full on. So Mick would be, Elle would be there all the time, and they'd be Mick and Elle. They'd do. Some lip tricks. Elle did this crazy nose pick drop in. Have you ever seen him do that?
I think
quite before people were doing Canadian nose picks.
Rom, he did it into the pool of Rom,
I remember just thinking.
He was doing that early, was he?
Yeah,
with a dodgy front brake.
I think so. Yeah, before people were doing.
Would have been a dodgy
before
front
people were doing nose picks, certainly. But Mick was much more, like aggro into Slayer, like flow, big airs. And obviously Elle was, just amazing at doing massive airs and stuff. So, so I guess Mick was more influenced by Elle and that, that kind of style. But we got into all those sort of grind variations and stuff. I loved all that.
Yeah, that's on my list actually to ask you about that stuff, because do you know where that came from? The peg stalls, like. Where did you? Where did you first see it?
The Smith grind, or what I, call the Smith grind, because it was
the back peg and the pedal.
Back peg and pedal, because that's what skateboarding Smith grind is, which
right,
we're obviously really familiar with. Most of the board is down the ramp, not on the platform.
Well, if you picked the points of the board that are touching, it's the same points on the bike. If you're doing, it's called a lucky grind now. So there's a guy called. John Engelbert, his nickname's Lucky, he got the credit for that grind.
Okay, right. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Although it was done in the UK, like way before anyone, I think, did it over there.
Yeah, they were really fun. And me and Mick were like really enjoyed, pretty good moves and alley-oop grinds and stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you guys seem to. So, if I go back to that point in time, and recently I noticed that I watched a BMX beat. And Craig Campbell's doing a peg stall on the quarter in '86, and so that's kind of like the first one that anyone really see.
Yeah.
But if I go back to that point, people were trying to do grinds in 1990, but you guys were doing the grinds and you had them figured out where you lifted your pedal up.
Yeah.
But everyone else pretty much was like along the coping. But I remember you and Mick were like sliding, and then you did like the. Well, you the normal Smith, what they call it now, was called the Lockerbie or something, right?
Oh no, was that.
I remember that term, but
I wasn't really into those because it just wasn't as satisfying a feeling.
Okay.
There's something about the back end being up, and
you kind of just
didn't
stood there.
Scrape it, and even if it was quite hard to get the back wheel parallel, the whole
Yeah, you couldn't.
length. It
Just
kind of
goes
went
in,
out, and then it wasn't as a.
Okay, I
So
thought
I was
you
never. I did them, but it wasn't a good. So there's a point where we were calling Smith grinds, but then everyone else started calling that other thing Smith.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of gave up and had to call them peg and pedal grinds or something, but just to differentiate.
Yeah.
And then. I remember trying to learn sort of 270 to pegs.
All right. To opposite pegs.
Okay. Which was, that was a kind of standard skate thing as well, 270 to axle stall. And I didn't get round and just landed with the back, wheel on the platform, but the peg in place, and then just went in. So that's
So that was
used to do the 270.
Yeah.
People called it 270 to Smith, but it was actually called Chimp's Chin.
Okay.
Which is a name that Sid came up with, which is like sort of random, But yeah, I still kind of nerd out a bit on that stuff, on the naming, and it was kind of funny, but yeah, just loved all that grind stuff. And like I said before, the idea that when you're doing a lip trick, it's not a two-stage thing.
Yeah.
You're not doing the whatever it is, and you land, and then you have a choice, and you can hang around.
Yeah.
It's you coming,
you're
committing to coming back in when you go up. And the thing with the pedals on the platforms, I mean, that was a pain because, of course, half pipes there was getting more half pipes, but there were skaters who were building them, and if you turned up on your bike, they might let you on. But the moment you ground your pedal into the platform and fucked up the plywood, that was it. They were like, we don't, clear off. We don't.
And that was how most people were doing it.
Yeah. So there was
you guys how did you figure that out so early? Like,
don't know. I guess
because that's where you've got to commit.
It was our ramp, and we didn't want to wreck it with grinding your pedal in.
What?
No, it's just riding with good skaters. And when they, do a frontside 50-50, it's the same mentality. They're coming back in, and I guess that gets ingrained into your head that's how you do grinds. So I guess it's.
But there's a commitment point where you have to have your pet,
you can't push it down.
Yeah, you can't. If you push it down, you sort of stand on the platform. Yeah. But you guys are already like.
Yeah. Oh, I want to do one of these now, John. I want to go and do this. I can remember because I'm on the not the middle, the first kind of good half pipe. All the coping we got was from it was old scaffolding tubes.
Okay.
But it was really gnarly, knackered stuff. It got rust on it and everything. So when you ground along it, proper vibrations and everything. Yeah, and I remember, and obviously we set the coping further out.
Okay.
Better for skating and grinds than because some of the first BMX ramps which had coping on it was set. Well, at first Portsmouth King of Vert, I remember the coping being set really far into the wood. It didn't really stick out. So it was actually quite hard to grind on it. So, Chimp's Chin.
No way. What year was that? 89, you think? I know it was early that you guys were doing that stuff.
Yeah, 88 or 89, I guess.
So that's still early.
I got one of those green mint Harrow. No, they were 88, weren't they?
Yeah, they probably had them for a few years.
Around then, yeah. No, it was ace that ramp a bit. It was yeah. And
you had a picture in Action Bike as well quite early, right? Doing like a power mower on a bank.
A street contest.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. So it was called Slick Wheels on the Streets of Hull or something.
Oh, really?
It was like Sick Wheels, I think it was. Yeah, that was a laugh. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, and same thing. Foot jammed on the coaster, crossed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of feeling that it's you and the bike, and you can feel what you can.
Snappy.
That was always kind of, I guess, what appealed.
And when did you? Who was your first sponsor other than that shop? You said you sponsored Gotcha.
I wrote off to Gotcha and Airwalk and got sponsored. And then I got given a Skyway TA at a contest from the Skyway manager. It was an old yeah, I don't know. Nick Jeffries, possibly he'd left the team or something.
And who's that? The infamous team manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got just a frame, and then that was for the I'd be about 16, 17. So it was just flow. It wasn't like, because I wasn't actually very good at that point.
How did you? You wrote off to Airwalk and Gotcha.
Yeah, separately.
What did you like? What did you present? Like
just said whatever came third in this competition. Or
okay.
Here's a picture of me in action back.
Okay.
Yeah, just whatever. Not really expecting anything. And then, they sent me a load of stickers and a T-shirt, and then you just develop the relationship.
Yeah.
Send them some pictures or some results or something, and then they never paid me.
Yeah, of course.
But it was good, to get all that amazing Gotcha thing, and then, of course the surf thing was kicking on.
Who were? Do you remember who they were? The people that
they were in some distributor in Cheltenham and Gloucester. I think Airwalk were in Gloucester and Gotcha were in Cheltenham.
Oh, right. Oh, no way.
So,
do you ever meet the guys?
Yeah, I'd go down in my van, I'd pass my driving test, and then I'd go down and I'd go to Shiner, because obviously you come down to Bristol.
Yeah.
And call in and get some stuff. I got Skyway Street Beat, and then but that was for the circus, because I went to most of the team were younger than seven. There was sort of Canning. Craig Campbell was just kind of leaving or had just left. So the team, Canning would be the oldest. Was Scott Carroll then, or don't know?
Oh, later, I think.
Yeah. The circus kind of gig came up, and because I was finishing my, I was 17 or 18 and finishing my A-levels and available.
Oh, right.
And that was the guy who owned the circus in Great Yarmouth had been to the States. He'd seen Ringling Brothers. He'd seen BMX in Ringling Brothers. Come back.
Was that another circus?
Yeah, big, massive American circus who'd got BMX in there pretty early, and he'd come back and found his agent in London and said, "Get me some BMX riders." And the Skyway team manager was basically the only person on his books, So he put the call in, and then it was, which riders have we got that are available? And Canning was really keen to do it because he needed a job.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have anyone else. So I got asked, and I was like, I wasn't really that bothered.
Oh, you went with Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Greg Giott did. I was doing my A-levels, so I couldn't be there at the start.
Okay.
And then so Greg did the first few weeks or a couple of months, and then I turned up and did the rest of the season.
No way. So, what was this? 88 maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was thinking when Greg rode briefly for Haro, it must have been that point in time.
Yeah. So that was amazing. So I left home, first time ever, leaving home and going to live in a flat over the top of Boob's show bar.
No way.
They even had these T-shirts with all different types of boobs on. And you had to walk into the bar and then kind of go up the staircase. And me and Canning lived there in this. I've got a picture. I've got a picture of the room. I mean, it was just it was such an eye opener. But that was all paid. That was paid for, and we had to do 2 shows a day, sort of 10 minutes. It was just brilliant. Yeah. It was, the circus was just amazing Victorian building with a wooden floor that sank into a swimming pool at the end of the show. So there was a swimming pool underneath the ring, and the floor had kind of slots in it. So as the floor went down, the water came up. So they'd have a synchronized swimming at the end of the show, and then this lunatic trapeze artist who did a solo trapeze on a swinging trapeze above the swimming pool.
All right.
I think he died in the ring eventually. Not in the show, not in the season I was in, but eventually, he was a nutcase. It was just ace. I mean, quite going from growing up in this sort of small town. I travelled a little bit, to do the odd competition and show, but it was
living somewhere else is.
And,
what was like? Was it Yarmouth? You said.
Yeah, Great Yarmouth.
What was that like in that time period?
Well, like a lot of, British seaside
Yeah,
resorts,
rough,
like
right?
a bit rough and shadow of its former self, and I loved it. Yeah, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still do. I've got a kind of funny, interest in rundown, faded grandeur, and rundown seaside resorts,
Yeah.
and still, it really appeals.
Do you get much like grief for?
Yeah,
For
Friday,
riding BMX?
Saturday night, yeah. And
That's what I would have thought,
we'd
yeah.
go out and ride along the prom and occasionally, give flyers out for the show or, and Peter J, who owned the show, he also owned a nightclub and various other places, so we got tickets to go to the nightclub. That's where I gave up drinking.
Oh, really?
I remember it really clearly. But I've started.
Gave up at
started
age 17.
I literally gave up because it just never appealed. I was just doing it because everyone else was doing it.
I've never tried.
And it was like, and then I remember being in that nightclub with this horrible pint of beer, and I just thought, why am I drinking this? It's not my jam at all.
Yeah, same.
So I drank half of it. I remember, just put it under the table and left it. And I wasn't like, religiously straight edge or whatever, but I couldn't, I just wasn't bothered about that stuff. And then one of the sort of joke vows in my first marriage ceremony was that I had to start drinking. And then I started drinking, like mid-late 20s, started enjoying it. But definitely gave up in that nightclub in Great Yarmouth. It was actually, Dave Slade came to visit. We had people would come to and hang out. I've got some pictures of him doing like fakey wall rides on a telephone box and stuff. Right. And then we'd have to do a parade at the beginning of the show where me and Canning would ride around the edge of the circus ring. And when Dave came to stay, he just dressed up as one of us, so he got to do it. But it's not the tallest guy, so all it's quite funny. And I then sat in the audience and took pictures of him. Pretended to be a sort of like the ring boys and the ring boys, the usherettes and the guys who did set the show up. They were just laughing because they could see, they knew me and it was quite an experience, and just the whole family, Folco family, who had the elephants, and all the acts were from all over the world. It wasn't like a little British circus that we have now. It was proper.
Well, it was a permanent space. It sounded
permanent
like
space. There's only 3, I think, in the world. There's one in St. Petersburg in Russia. There's one in Blackpool, and there's one in Great Yarmouth.
No way. Which
have this swimming pool that drops down. And it worked. Every day. It's Victorian plumbing, Victorian technology. So that really, it's kind of life changing. And there was lots of messing around. We had white tigers, these sort of weird albino kind of tigers.
I know the ones you mean.
Yeah, it was. And Canning and we kind of fell out a bit, but nothing serious. Which, considering it was quite amazing. Got our own. We moved somewhere else eventually, and and then just saved up all the money and went to America at the end of it.
Oh, no way.
I think.
You went to the Enchanted
first year, yeah.
Can you remember what the payment was for being at that circus?
Yeah, I think I got 300 quid a week.
Which was loads. In 88, it was like.
But my accommodation paid for as well.
Yeah.
So we got flat. So I think it was 250 or 300. It was either 250 quid a week or 300 quid a week. And then when we did Blackpool the following season, it was 50 quid or 100 quid more.
Okay. Which was a lot of money then, like, when you think about it. Like.
Yeah, what's that? 300 quid a week for riding your BMX for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah. You've got to live there, but like still, that's a decent amount of money for 1988.
Yeah, but it kind of, if it was twice that much or half that much, it kind of wouldn't have made any difference, because I kind of had no context for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you just was going to do it regardless.
Whether that was a good deal or a bad deal, or it didn't really matter. It was. We were there for the experience, and it may possibly. I was thinking about this recently, that possibly that set me up with kind of a weird attitude to money that I've had for the rest of my life.
Oh, really?
And I've seen, like, with my own kids, it's like, so from the age whenever I got sponsored at like 15 or 16 or 17, I then didn't have to buy my bikes. So I just did this thing that didn't really cost me anything.
Yeah.
And then my first job for the next 3 years was doing this thing. So I kind of, I guess, subconsciously, that was ingrained, that you do this thing you love and you don't really care that you're getting paid. And you don't value it. Whether I'd got paid half that or 3 times that wouldn't have made any difference to how I approached it. I'd have still wanted to do it, and I still liked it. And that's not always been the most useful.
And it happened at a young age. It happened when you've been through some stuff.
Yeah,
you have a different view on it, probably.
And although the family business and everything else, we grew up, with that kind of work ethic. That everyone works hard and you work certain hours, and and that's how it is. And not that you don't like work, but you put in these.
Exactly. It's a structure to it.
I didn't. I got money. I either got a check or cash or money appeared in my account, but it didn't seem directly related to what I'd been doing, because I'd just been having
the value was the value was different.
I was thinking about that the other day, and that's maybe where it kind of set it off. And I've seen it with like my photography as well later. Like some of the pictures I've got paid most for over the years are the ones I just don't think are any good.
All right.
Because the graphic designer or the clients thought, oh, this picture is the best one for us. But I've just thought, oh, that's, nothing great.
Yeah.
I remember doing this job once in Singapore, and I was so happy with it. It was like one of those shots, decisive moment. Everything came together in the frame. I was just like, this is the best commercial picture I've ever taken, and ever likely to. They're probably going to use it, on the cover of the annual report or whatever. And the graphic designer used it about that.
Oh, really?
About that big.
What was it?
It was like shot in the back of a car, and it's when screens were just being introduced into cars.
All right.
And there was live TV on the screen, and I was flicking through the TV trying to find an Asian-looking image, and it was like a white 24mm, shot, and I got my arm around the passenger. I was sitting in the back with the flash, to light up the driver. And just at the moment, this Asian-looking image came onto the screen. The driver looked in the mirror. So I got this kind of shot of everything just in that moment. I was really chuffed. But again, it's the same thing. They didn't financially value that. So maybe that's working in the circus and not having that direct relationship to hours worked or effort.
And age bracket is a lot to do with these things, I think.
What you do at that age is really defining, isn't it? It kind of sets you. Sets you.
That is your measuring stick for life.
And I've never really been motivated by money, and often a bit, let's say, confused about what other people value and what I've got paid for compared to the things that I valued and enjoyed. But no, I did Blackpool. So Peter J, who was the promoter, he was in a band in the 60s called Peter J and the Jaywalkers.
Okay.
And he was a character. Always wore black, had a black Mercedes, and his wife Christine J, she kind of ran the show, but Peter was like a rock. He was still a rock star. He was like a impresario, like the classic. He's just ace, really great, and he put together this show, and he decided that us BMXers were going to be like the young, to appeal to like the youngsters. So he didn't want us in traditional circusy sequins. We were to wear our race uniforms. We had like dry ice, smoke, and a laser. First time they'd had a laser in the light show, and then he was saying, "Well, what's the music going to be?" And he was like, "Have you heard of S Express?" And we were like, we were all like into Metallica, and, Jane's Addiction and Agent Orange and all that, sort of stuff. And I thought I might have heard it on the radio, and so played. So it's Theme from S Express, which is this massive song. So he said, "This is the soundtrack. I bought the license for it. This is perfect." Me and Cannon were, whatever.
That's what you used, yeah.
So I had to listen to that for. Wow. It was the whole track, which was quite long, and then it went into this other track called Bomb the Bass.
Yeah, I know,
yeah.
Tim Cinnamon, wasn't it? It was from London, right? Yeah.
So I listened to that every day for 20 minutes for 3 months. And then we got to the end of that season, and Peter J asked us to do the show in Blackpool the following year. And asked, Canning was going off to do Circus Krona in Germany.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
They didn't want BMX in the Yarmouth show, because they didn't want the same act twice.
Yeah.
So I got offered the Blackpool job with a guy called Ollie Matthews, and we went over there. And I remember going up for the sort of set the show up and everything. And I was like, "Oh, hi, Peter. I haven't seen Peter J for a while." And it was like, "Oh, what?" He was asking us what the show was going to be and everything. And I was like, "So what about the music?" And he just said, "Why change a winning formula? I just renewed the license for Express again." And it's still, I get goosepimples if I hear the first bar of that song on the radio.
Way.
It's ingrained in your body. It's not like a memory thing. It's ingrained in your kind of.
Pins the year down quite well as well, because that was the hit that year. Was it 88? Was that?
Yeah. So it was ace, and just being in that environment with that kind of talented, that kind of talent from all around the world, and they were really good shows, and then the animal rights activists kind of closed it down because we had elephants and tigers and all kinds of.
We had
a buffalo.
No way.
Buffalo in
Buffalo in Blackpool.
And there, it was just like a nightmare. You can't control them. At the end of the season, we went to get the ramps out, because the circus had built us one ramp, and then we had the Skyway Vincent Frames, the kind of the oldest, kind of most famous one. That was our main ramp. But we had to wait for all the animals to get out before we could go and get our props out. So they got all the animals out. The only thing that was left was the buffalo, and they got a trailer, like a horse box trailer, parked up. And they opened the cage of the buffalo, and there was these guys with like 8x4 sheets of plywood, and they just sort of tried to cajole the buffalo out, because you can just give it like a runway. You can't, steer it. You just have to. So they were walking behind it with these 8x4 sheets of plywood. So if the buffalo kind of turned around, it thought there's no other way out. There's only one way it can go, and they were slowly herding along. And the circus people were saying to me and Mick, I think, or my dad, or whoever's there getting the ramps out, they're saying, "Look, just stay out the way of this thing. It's dangerous.
It's a wild beast,
totally uncontrollable." So we were just sort of out the way, and then we saw it go around the corner, go into the back of the horse box, and then they're going to lift the ramp up. The tailgate of the trailer, and apparently this buffalo just went in, turned round, and then came charging out, jumped on the two guys with the 8x4 sheets of plywood, which flattened them, and then went charging back into the underground of the circus, where we were all waiting, and we just heard all this screaming and get out of the way, and I remember it just coming past. Everyone just had to hide as best you could. I think my brother went into the. Oh no, maybe he wasn't there. Anyway, somebody went into the tiger, where the tiger cage was. I just remember it coming past, and it was like something out of a movie, where it snorts, and you can see and you just like that. Absolutely hilarious.
Wow.
And that, smelled death. That was one of those where occasionally in my life I've had that, the smell of death, and it's like.
How did they get that back in?
Same thing, just had to
got the plywood out.
Get the plywood and keep cajoling and bringing it round.
That sounds so.
Yeah, no, it was wild this year because it was ace. I remember this. There was a brilliant Mexican trapeze team, and all related, all family. And there was this really, really hot, really fit one of the daughters who would be like, I don't know, 18 or 19 or something. And we were sort of single guys at the same age, and she just started really coming on to me once, and I was like, I've not like made any, this is towards the end of the season, and thinking, I'm not. I mean, totally fancied her. But it wasn't like, and then and I thought, oh no, there's something up here, because she was like properly, like trying to. Basically shagged me in the dressing room, and it was, she just wanted to get off with somebody and marry them so she could stay in the UK, because the rest of the family and she ended up, and I was like, oh no, there's something weird, you know.
He figured it out.
there's something not right here, you know. And she eventually had a baby and married one of the spotlight operators and stayed in Blackpool, and the rest of the family, you know, just went on to the next job. And it was, there was some, good weird shit went down there, really.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
Not a lot of riding.
I wonder how did they get Mexicans over here anyway? Like, that would have...
Well, I guess just on a work, you know, sort of temporary working visas. But everybody, you know, we were the only kind of British people in there.
Yeah.
And our contemporaries, I guess, were like all the people who were working there, like the usherettes and the boys who set the props up. So we often got on really well with them because they were like us. They were British, you know, teenagers. Yeah. And yet we were working with these, you know, 40, 50-year-old Italians and Spanish and, you know, really accomplished, really well-known kind of circus performers. And
that's a different world.
It was ace. It was a real, amazing experience. My riding didn't develop very much because...
That was one of... Remember I asked you once, like, how did you come out of nowhere? And you were like, no, I was in the circus.
Yeah. It was a mixture of... because I really wasn't that good when I went into it. You know, I was okay, but I wasn't particularly competitive. You know, didn't have, you know, sort of that gung-ho. You know, I wasn't physically very strong or, you know... And just riding that consistently... Even though the tricks we were doing were really, I mean, my flatland routine was pretty basic. But if you've never seen anyone do a hands, you know, what's called where you balance on across the bars or a
surfer.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
No, the one where you hold the front wheel and lean over.
I don't even know what it's called.
Or that shit. Or
in inverted wheel stand or something. I don't even know. I know what you mean,
Switzerland squeak or something like. If you've never seen that before, then that's fine. So I wasn't going to, you know. I'm not going to take the risk of falling off and doing something slightly more complicated that only another BMXer would expect. You know. So it was 3 months at Yarmouth, and then the following year 6 months at Blackpool. And during that time, I'm not trying new tricks because I don't want to lose my job. And then in the winters, I'm back at riding the half pipe or going to America with the money I've made.
How high was you doing airs in the circus?
Well, the first in Yarmouth we had a trick ramp and then a quarter pipe, so I think Canning could get about 6 or 7 foot, and that was if you did a perfect kick turn right at the top and then got the exact right crank. And because the floor became a swimming pool twice a day, the floor was sometimes a bit wet.
Okay,
so that was always nice.
That sounds deadly.
And Canning had finished the show with a 540.
All right.
So his 540's got pretty consistent because if you've got to do 2 a day every day for 3 months, then.
So had you learned 540s at this?
No, not at all.
So you're pre-540.
I was just his, I was just supporting Mike. I'd do some of the flatland, and then he was obviously really good. Did all the variations. I could probably only do a couple of variations, but at least when I rode, he then had a rest on the ramps, and it was a short show, and it was all fine. And then in the Blackpool, we had 2 quarter pipes, and Ollie was really high on some of that. He was starting to get.
That's where because he came out of nowhere as well.
And I think that's
he was
where.
Good flatland, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was really good flatlander, and he'd often we'd do this fairly basic routine, but if his dad came up to see the show. It was hilarious. The flatland routine he'd do in the show was like some kind of world championship winning thing, whereas I just did the same boring, stuff that I knew I could pull, and maybe introduced a bit more showmanship, wound up the crowd a bit, and then what happened? In the 3rd year, Ellis and Dave Blundell went off to do the German Circus Krona, which was a touring circus, big deal, like a couple of thousand people. They had 2 massive tents. People had paid like 50 quid for tickets, and they wear a black tie and want to sit at the front.
Oh, right.
Yeah, totally different.
So it was
massive deal. I was the reserve rider, so I was on a retainer to just be ready.
if someone
if
hurt
something went wrong. And I think about a month or two before the end, L broke his collarbone or something in the show. So I got a call from the manager saying, L's broken his collarbone, we need to go to Germany and you need to take over the show tomorrow.
Oh, so you was at home?
I was at home,
paid for this retainer.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't enough to live on, but it was, it was a reserve rider. So a bike arrived from China on a delivery, and then I got on a train to King's Cross. Manager picked me up in his van, and we drove through the night to Black Forest in Germany.
Oh wow!
Arrived about a couple of hours before the show was due to start, and Al and Dave had been finishing the show with a double air, like one air over the top, which is how me and Ollie had been finishing the show, because I hadn't learned 540s or tail whips at this point.
Yeah.
So I met Dave. I've met him before, and he said, "Right, look, we've just got to do this blinking show. Let's not work out who's doing what." And I said, "Well, how are we going to finish the show? Because I can't do a double air with you, having never practiced and never hit that cork, because I didn't get to ride the cork pipe or anything, and the floor was just 8x4 sheets on dirt and a trick ramp. So although it was a bigger space, it was So I foolhardily said, I'll finish the show with a tail whip air, because I just learned them. So we did the show, went out all right, went to finish they bigged it up. James going to do a tail whip. And of course I just smashed myself to pieces, completely failed, crashed onto the ground. And everyone it went quiet. I remember it went really quiet because it was proper crash. And so I then got back up, had a ride round and got back up, and then pulled the second one.
Okay.
And then it was the usual massive crowd.
Good finale,
and then the Crystal Sembach Krona, who was like the queen of the entire show, she called me into her office afterwards, which was like having an audience with the queen, and had to have a translator and everything because she was German. And basically they thought that I'd crashed it on purpose, and that I was some kind of fucking showman who'd done this to get a bigger. And I was like, no. And I said, I'm not doing that again. I said, Dave and I are going to practice the double air, and then we finished it with the.
How did you crash the tail whip?
I think I just pulled. I didn't just pulled out too much.
Okay.
Yeah, everything. When you get them really wrong, they're just awful tail whips. I got one really wrong at Bury once. There's a video of it.
Going over the
horrible. Just
over the front was always the problem that I thought was the worst. Like where you overcommit and then you just can't move, and you get. Right. You just can't move, so you just get stuck.
That horrible where the bike's there. And the bike's there, and you have no control.
And your feet are behind you, and you just go forward. Yeah.
Nice to be reminded of that. You can still feel it. So,
I did that a few times.
Yeah.
But
and then so did the end of the circus with Blundell. That was good getting to know him. He lived in a truck called the Beast, which was some old Mercedes. Van, with a bed in it and stuff.
Yeah. And, what was his background? Because I know that
Liverpool,
name.
Liverpool.
Super well.
He used to ride that
about,
crazy Rathbone
quarter pipe.
Yeah, him and Tabron.
And Tony
Puddifer. And so I'd met him a couple of times, but didn't really know him that well. But obviously then
was he was good, I assume.
He was good, and just. Real sense of humour and quite dry. Liverpool, really good flatlander, and but always thought of him as a quarter pipe rider, never as a half pipe rider. There was it was good. And then he amazingly he stayed in. So it got to the end of the season. They asked me to do the next season. I said I didn't want to. Because I kind of was quite serious with my girlfriend, and I didn't really want to live in a truck. I didn't want to live in a house. So I said no. Blundell stayed. Elle came back, and eventually they got the show. I think Elle talks about it,
that's right.
How they kind of carried on. And then basically Dave stayed in Germany. I think he married a German knife thrower. a couple of years
really?
later, yeah, and he stayed in Germany, and eventually he evolved his act into a kind of one-man BMX show where he just had it was mainly flatland, and then he just had a little kicker that he did like a 360 off at the end.
All right.
And he started doing like light entertainment shows.
Okay.
And his outfit kind of evolved to being like more kind of spangly and
Circus style.
more bit circusy. And then he learnt German obviously, and then he started doing kind of slightly comic, it evolved into this sort of comic routine. And at one point he had this sort of tailcoat made, with tail all black, but he had like the 3 Adidas stripes down it. And he did, it was so funny. I didn't stay in touch with him, but occasionally I'd hear things. And then, was that 3 years ago? Went to Berlin, and he's still there, and he's got his own show now. So he owns the tent. He's got his own light entertainment.
Oh, right. I was in Berlin recently,
yeah. You pay like £100 and it's dinner and a show.
Wow.
And it's called Dinner for Fun. And he doesn't ride his bike at all. He's a stand-up comic.
Oh, no.
He owns the show, and he's the compere. So, of course, me and my artist friend who I'd been out to visit, we went along to the show. It's just, I'll put the picture in, me and Dave Blundell, because he's still in full makeup.
Okay, I'm going to try and find that show.
Yeah, it's... so, yeah, he stayed and made a career of it. And I think that, that's been really interesting. It's interesting with Beswick as well, I think, where, I was... a contemporary of these people, and then they stayed with the thing that we were doing at the time, and you can see how, not that life would have played out exactly the same way, but you have a reference point for if you hadn't stopped.
Yeah.
Where might it have gone? And with seeing Dave after all those years was just brilliant. Just thinking, I was never going to stay in the circus.
Yeah.
But Dave did, and it brought him to this thing where he owns the whole show.
That's like an evolution upon an evolution upon an evolution, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's
just kept going.
His comedy, his sense of humour eventually became the thing, and he was hilarious.
So the comedy acts in German, or
English? He was making all these German people piss themselves in his tent in German, where with his Adidas striped
wow
dinner jacket. Yeah, and you could tell he was genuinely funny. And, so that was great seeing him after all those years, and. I think I met up with Bessie once, 10, 12 years ago. And then obviously, you've seen how his career and I'm not for a minute thinking that I was ever going to do that, but it's really interesting seeing, we were at that sort of very similar point. In Alfreton and Ridley, pulling the cork pipes apart and doing alley-oops, and then to see...
to see where it goes. Still got 10 alley-oops.
Yeah, I know. just ace. So,
so you come back from the circus.
Yeah, I came back from the circus.
Is there a notable change? That's what I wanted to ask you. Was there a notable change from when you went to when you came back, like within the BMX scene? Or was it just very similar?
No, because I think it wasn't. It was evolving, as you know, radically at that time. But because I was, the biggest gap was being in Blackpool for 6 months.
Okay.
But that's only half the year. The other half of the year, I was in Retford. Riding, or America.
But in the winter,
right? Yeah, in the winter.
But that's when it's quiet anyway. So
yeah, but we'd still try and dry the ramp and get the So
I just mean like in general, like the scene's less buzzing in the winter. There's less going on, and
yeah, definitely. But it was the surf thing and moving to half pipes, that was street riding. That was all kind of happening. I didn't want to ride in the circus anymore for some reason. Just couldn't imagine living in a trailer. That. So went back. I'd been taking photographs at this point. This is where the dates, because so much then happened.
Yeah. Well,
1989, 1990, 91.
It became more
so intense.
and I would assume you would say the same, but it became like completely. It went from like a sort of a sport, so to speak. And then it moved into like a complete whole culture of stuff where people dropped out, and the people that stayed in went deeper into other like music and like skating and riding, and like just it became so much more of a thing you just was rather than a thing you did.
Yeah. And did you feel that at the time? Did you think, because you'd be you were there then, and
I think so. Yeah,
year or two behind, but it was.
I think definitely I became more attached. The less it became, the smaller it became, the more I became attached. I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know why that would be.
Yeah. It seemed so natural for us because the reason we wanted to do it is because I didn't want to play rugby.
Yeah.
I just I didn't like the aggressive, the binary. The witty loop. Yeah. Didn't like the shouty, pushy parents. That was not my mum and dad.
That aggressive, tough guy sort of.
And that binary, and it's all blokey, and everyone's the same age, and that was what we were rejecting to go and ride and skate. So the whole sports centre uniform thing was okay. We're not. That's all really important for the development, and we definitely enjoyed it. I definitely wanted the uniform and stuff, but that wasn't. I never thought, this is. I want it to be like rugby and football. Yeah. So the moment there were, people started expressing themselves and doing, influenced by skaters or music or surf or anything else, it was like, oh no, this is the side we want to be on. And also the, homemade ramps built from, scrounge and stolen wood. That's not like a Olympic facility. Yeah, that's right. That was where I want to be.
Passion projects for only really. So you saying that you saw the stuff in Action Bike, but you guys were running parallel to what was going on there anyway, because you were quite far ahead of everyone else, I would say.
Yeah. It was, we were definitely influenced. It was ahead. What was going on there, I guess, at Mons and Chingford. I never went to either of those places. They were probably a bit ahead, but not very much. It seemed kind of obvious which way it was going. So, I was still there in the winter, but I did miss the summer. I was 6 months out in Blackpool. I missed. There was some Mons Jammers that year, Chingford. Yeah, I missed some serious
second Chingford, I think.
Yeah, some serious stuff that season. But I was just getting consistent and solid. And then when I came out of that period, I think that's when my riding really took off. That's when
that's when you went up
really
the runs,
really getting into it, and. I went to America, of course. Blinking King of Wood.
What was that, 88 or 89?
That must be 89.
Because that's the thing I was talking about. They had the feature, and it had you doing the backwards...
Sitting backwards,
dropping.
Yeah, so I'd learnt that at Alfreton or Ripley one evening. And that was kind of when I got my BH California... And I was, riding around the grass. My granddad came out once, and he looked at the bike, and then he says, "Can I have a go on it?" And I'm like, "Well, whatever. Yeah, I suppose so." And he stepped his leg over the top tube the wrong way, and he put his hands and he sat backwards and just pedalled off across the grass on my brand new shiny BMX, sitting backwards. And I was just like.
You've just been thrown out by your granddad.
I've just been thrown out by my granddad. I was like, just people say, "Oh, my mind was blown." It literally, I couldn't talk. Like this guy who, when you're that age, everyone, over the age of 40, he's just decrepit and can't move. And like, what hell? Anyway, he'd learned to ride bikes sitting backwards for some reason. So that was. Like the moment he'd gone back in the house, I was like, right, I am doing it. So that whole sitting backwards thing, and then of course, it was a trick, but I'd seen my granddad do it before. I'd seen BMXers do it, and so the sitting backwards thing was kind of ingrained as well. Yeah. So I was just messing around once, riding backwards like that. Rode up a ramp, tried to carve an air. Sitting backwards, and just never going to blink and work. And then, I guess it was that time drop-ins and lip tricks were starting to happen. I was running a coaster at the same time, and just learned it on a sort of 5 foot high ramp at Alfreton, and then just went straight up to the 8 foot thing. and I think I just pulled the first one. I don't ever
right.
remember. It's a commitment and
Yeah.
pointing the front wheel down and trusting your balance.
You crashed a few of them, though. I think that seemed like
classic.
it would go really wrong.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it, and then you're on the floor.
Yeah. No, of course. The only one I ever remember crashing was, of course,
the
American King of Birds. So I worked in the circus. I was a professional rider. And I had ridden half pipe, so when me and Elle went to America, and Elle had been working in the circus as well, we were just like idiots. I don't know, pedant. I mean, Elle really raised his game and did well, but I was just like, I have to ride pro class because I'm a professional BMX rider. I get paid.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm no way near good enough to ride. I wouldn't have even, done well in expert class. The standard of riding was...
Well, that's too hip then.
Yeah,
okay.
I was so out of my depth. Elle just raised his game and just
he had a good photo, didn't he? Yeah.
Just was absolutely blasting. And I was there taking photographs. This is where it started to get complicated, trying to document these events and report for them and ride in them.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I came, quite rightly, came last and couldn't even pull my blinking
signature
my signature show, but I remember Ron Wilson was doing a commentary and he kind of said, "Oh, I've seen him pull that," because I had done it at the Enchanted Ramp for Spike and Photograph.
Yeah.
Spike Johns had done a sequence of that. So yeah, I'd learnt that, but yeah, totally outclassed at that event. But it really fired me up because that was the first half pipe contest I'd ever been in. And then it was the winter, came back, and then the Portsmouth King of Vert, the UK King of Vert was starting that year. And, and I was fully...
You were charged.
I was embarrassed.
That was in spring, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I was embarrassed and motivated, and I'd had all these, two seasons in the circus of perfecting, getting a bit solid,
really
just
comfortable,
getting, and then learning tail whips. I'd got all these lip tricks in my bag, and then learned 540s.
Where did you learn tail whip? Here, you learned on your ramp.
Yeah.
How did you get the contact? Did you go with Elle to California?
How
did you get the contact?
I think it must have been at the Bercy event. Lee Reynolds had gone.
Oh, right, okay.
And then we met up with Lee, and then he'd introduced us to Ron and Kevin Martin, and then they'd done that classic thing as, you can come and stay with us.
Yeah.
Not expecting us to actually turn up.
Yeah.
And, here's our address, here's our number, and then, so we just went and actually turned up, and then, had to do that contest. And
was there other English guys at the Enchanted Ramp when you were there?
There was a guy called Lars from Denmark.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Lee,
Lars Hansen.
Jason, Hassel, and
Andy Brown.
Andy Brown. Pova was there a bit, I think.
He was living there by then, I think.
He probably was, wasn't he? Yeah. But Lee, I guess, Lee was the main one for us, and he'd already been out there.
Okay.
So yeah, it was the Bercy event, which was I went to, but I obviously wasn't riding, and I took my camera. We were given tickets for spectator, sit at the back of the hall. I was like, no way, I want to be on the platform with my heroes and my mates. Yeah. So I went and got a press pass, and that was the start of kind of taking photographs, because I think Dobie and Paul Sunman were there shooting it for RAD, but they were on the platform with fisheyes, and I don't think I had a fisheye at that first one, or maybe. But I shot some stuff with a straight lens from the bottom, and TLB really liked that because it was like a bit different to all the fisheye stuff. So he actually ran a couple of my shots and paid me. All right, and that was the start of kind of getting paid for photography, getting pictures, and then. So I've been starting to contribute to magazines, and then it just got really intense that year, because I became the editor of Skate Action magazine. And the Half Pipe series, the UK Half Pipe series kicked off, which was that was basically what I wanted to ride. Well, you came back when you rode that Portsmouth contest, and you won that contest, right? Yeah. And that was a thing. That was a drama. So King of Vert, Portsmouth. Yeah, basically,
Learned a load of new lip tricks.
Come back from the States. Circus was over, and been riding the half bike, load of all of that kind of stuff. And this was the first kind of UK half bike. But I've been photographing in America and selling those pictures to skateboard magazines.
All right.
And BMX, and, to RAD.
On that trip.
Yeah,
that you went to in Charlie,
the previous year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and to some other magazines, and so I was working for. I basically shot most of Skate Action, and then the publisher wanted to get rid of the editor.
Okay.
Because he'd been involved in some altercation up at Barrow and Furnace.
I know
about it. Yeah.
It's on video. I watched it on video.
Yeah. So
it was on maybe a wheels. There was some sort of wheels video, and it was on that at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of went up, and obviously Sean, the editor, knew there was something up, and he was like, some BMXer, some BMXers coming.
Wow.
I've been told I've got to work with this BMXer or whatever, and so I went up and we went off skating together, and he sort of, I guess, thought I was all right, and then used all my pictures, and then before I know it, the publisher just said, Sean's gone, clear his desk, do you want to be the editor? And gave me a budget. I can't remember. It was like nothing. It's like £1,000 or £1,500 a month.
Who owned the mag?
A guy called Martin Higginson, who was the original owner of BMX Bi-Weekly and all that up in Morecambe. Higginson's, yeah. So he did that. I can't remember. And I had to basically, that was my salary, film, processing costs, all my petrol, like everything to make the magazine. And I was like, great, do this. Moved to Milton Keynes, so I was basically in the middle of the country. My girlfriend, Jenny, and we lived near Pete Dossett and his girlfriend, and that's what I did, just drive around photographing skateboarding. But then I'd often, I'd ride the half pipes, I'd take my bike, I'd still go and ride our ramp. And it was just really rich time. I mean, especially on our ramp, just the lip tricks. And
what's this, 1990?
Yeah, this would be we just mess around as well. I mean, we'd mess around with language. It was like somebody'd do a trick and we'd be on the platform, and we'd always refer to things as in the past tense. Like we'd say, "Oh, that was," that was Lynn, which was this expression. Like, what does that mean? So even if you were going to do something, you'd refer to it in the past tense, and then we'd be, like sarcastic, or say the opposite of what we meant. So something that was, huge, we would say was slim.
Yeah. Okay.
So it would be. Ella would do 10-foot air on the other side, and we'd just go, that was slim. And then it was like, right, how can we make this more complicated? Let's drop the first letter off all the words. So it then became, that was lim. And like people would be like, what are you even
talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And then that lim lamb became a part of our language.
Part of your terminology.
Slim slam. So a massive crash was a limb lamb. And we just it was hilarious. And now you look back and you think, wow, what a creative, crazy, that doesn't happen all the time. But at the time, it was just, you thought, we didn't think that was weird or anything. So I kind of got all that, done the America thing, and then I guess it was Freestyle Magazine, and Nobles put on this UK King of Vert thing, and I was really mad for it.
And that was when you was the editor of Skate Action. You won that contest.
Started that around the same. It was that year, I think.
Okay, 1990.
Around then. And they billed it as this sort of showdown between. Do you remember, like Scott Carroll and Stefan Prantl? Like the marketing was behind it was like, Stefan, well, Scott would be the favourite, and he was on the freestyle team, I guess. And then Stefan was coming from Germany, so they were kind of giving it an international flavour. And the other thing to remember at this point is I'd been regularly contributing to RAD. I think the publisher of freestyle. I'd been to visit like Freestyle BMX inverts offices for some reason. I had contributed pictures, but they basically said don't contribute to RAD. You shouldn't be contributing to RAD. Yeah, you're UK BFA.
Okay.
This is, you shouldn't be doing that. I was like,
wow.
No, of course I'm going to. They actually pay me and return my nets, and their magazine more reflects our scene, Trompton. So I wasn't particularly popular with
those guys already.
There'd been something with the ride. I was the riders' representative.
Okay.
For the UK BFA had been or something, and there'd been some. Yeah, it wasn't a good atmosphere. It wasn't, we were youngsters.
People, of course.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Anyway, I was the last person in the world they wanted to win. That was for sure.
Right.
And
I didn't know any of this.
No, and I wasn't going in there going, they were still my mates. It's still Tabron and all the team writers, whatever. It wasn't like it was a bad situation.
Because it didn't come across as they didn't come across as your mates in the mag that came out.
This is when it changed.
Okay.
So I did my thing. I was really anti kind of Granier.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I thought it was a waste. You can't do that. And I really like when Bessie was kind of at his prime and he could like crank, the half pipe was 40 foot wide and he could just crank all the way along the platform, ride in and do the, his first hit was like his biggest. I thought that was great, because often you'd have riders who'd, ride in and they'd be 4 or 5 Graniers in on each side before they did anything, So I was really, I'm going to do back-to-back, trick on every wall, and I'd maybe try and do one Granier just to get enough height to start the run, but I wasn't going that high anyway. I didn't crash. I think there were quite a lot of crashes at that contest. I think Stefan or Scott, there was some.
Scott knocked it
I guess I was just consistent, did all my thing, probably looked a bit different to everyone else. And then the results came out, and it took ages for them to read the results out, and that's because they recounted them like 3 times because they were just like,
can't be right.
James cannot it was the shortest kind of handover prize giving thing. I seem to remember I got 225 quid.
Okay.
And I bought my girlfriend a clarinet with the money. Don't remember ever playing it. And then the magazine came out, and it was like
a drama,
no pictures of me. I don't think there were, or maybe a little black and white.
There's a picture of you from that contest, but I think it might be in the issue before the contest report, maybe.
Or whatever. But and then all the quotes from all the invert riders saying the judging was a joke and blah blah blah. But anyway, I didn't. I don't remember it bothering me that much, but it was just I knew I'd done well. Right. And then basically, the whole of that season was just great. Just loved it. Kind of got better. Got 540s. Followed by tail whip, and I just got this rundown where I maybe do one or no Graniers, do all my variations back to back, do a pretty good 540 tail whip, smash all my lip tricks, and then finish with sitting backwards, drop it. And I'm done.
Do you remember who was judging? Was Lee judging? Lee commentated, I think.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
I just wondered who it was. Yeah.
But the point is, they chose all the judges.
Yeah, well,
not that I think any of the judging would be rigged, but it was, it didn't really matter. But I guess I was a bit. I don't remember it. I don't remember being annoyed when it came out, and then so I did loads of those. I didn't win any others, but I did well enough, and I think at the end, and obviously Bessie was getting really good now. So by the end of the Mansfield, Bessie was
dominating,
really good, and I think we tied for equal first place overall at the end of the year, because I'd been finishing second and third every time. But Bessie was just getting really good. But Mansfield was a game changer. When I saw Matt do the I can't call it a flare, it's a massive backflip late 180, but it's not the same trick. When I see a kid in a skate park do a flare on a quarter, you can't do a backflip late 180 on a 4 foot high quarter. But I remember just seeing that, and I was there, throwing the chairs, and I got a sequence of it that they put in RAD. But I just thought, there's no bloody way I'm doing that. That was the end for me. It was like, I am not an acrobat. Too far. I'm not an acrobat. I don't have that strength or desire to push it.
But that hasn't been done again, really, like that.
Well, this is it. People talk that was the first flare. No, that was literally the one and only backflip late 180. It's not the same thing, but
some of the vert guys, they still do it like a gnarly flip.
Yeah.
If you
the way he had to wrench the bike round at the end
but the thing with that was, it wasn't just that trick. I don't think. I think like everything he did that day was just like ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it was amazing, but it was the end for me. I could see the way it was going.
So that's the end. If
in my head,
in terms of end of your progression.
I didn't see that trick and think, right, I need to, build a stronger bike, like Matt was thinking.
Yeah.
I need to, build a bigger ramp. I need to get towed in by motorbikes and build foam pits. I was not thinking any of that.
No, but I don't think many others were either. But so how old were you at this?
20, 21, yeah. And then the funny thing about the contest was about, I guess 10 years ago, me and Larry Ball went to the Bath and West Showground because they had some BMX World Championship thing where they had the half pipe and flatland. It was really low key. Maybe it was longer. And I was living in Bristol, and I'd stayed in touch with Larry Ball, and so we just said, we're just going to pay and go and have a sort of mooch round. It wasn't very far, not expecting and to have a bit of a laugh, and it was hilarious because Tabron was there, and I hadn't seen him for ages, and we had a nice chat and catch up and everything, and he just said, James, I actually watched the video from the Portsmouth King of Vert for the first time, and he said, I'm sorry, we weren't very nice to you, and you deserve to win it. I've watched it back.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. I was like, Tab. I was like properly, after all these years. And I was like, you're actually a grown up now.
Yeah.
It was that was lovely. And then it was Ace being there with Larry as well, because Ephraim was there, and I think James White, and I was walking around, and I recognised Ephraim and Whitey, and I was sort of going. I walked up, and they recognised me, but then they were just staring at Larry.
Oh, right.
Like, because he's like the flatland legend Enigma, and I was like, Ephraim.
Did they know he was him?
Oh, God,
they did, yeah.
And I was just, shaking hands, saying hi, and whatever. Because I have bumped into these people occasionally. I haven't been looking for it after I quit, but a bit of skate park, or we just cross paths. So I just sort of said, Ephraim, this is my friend Larry. Maybe Larry Bull. Maybe you remember him. And they were just like, wow, that was funny. And then we saw Jerry Galley as well. I remember.
Oh, okay.
Just like walking, just visiting.
Well, I wonder what that was, that event you went to.
Yeah, it was Bath and West Showground or something. Yeah, it's like half pipe World Championships, which Tabron won, but Bessie wasn't there. So it was some event put on as part of something. But that all ended up in good. But I like that half pipe. It was a bit undervert. Fine for me.
Yeah, it was a little bit lower than most of the others, wasn't it, as well?
Doing a decent 540 and a tail whip straight after was on the opposite wall. That was, in terms of kind of physical experience, exhilaration and physical, that was the height of, riding for me.
Yeah.
I don't rate it or remember it by results. I remember it and rate it by feeling. Yeah. And that the blind spot in the middle of a 540, and then the wrenching tail whip round. That was
rare for then as well. I mean, I don't think that there would have been many people doing that, regardless.
Yeah.
Well, you won Hastings.
I don't think I did. That was then the opposite, because I think actually Mark Noble wrote in the write-up, Bessie won it.
Oh, did
I do remember riding really well, did massive alley-oop grinds.
Yeah,
I did a pretty high.
That was the first backyard, right? I think it was.
First or second. The half pipe was big.
Yeah,
it was metal,
big one.
Lots of vert.
Yeah.
And I did a pretty high 540.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was really happy with the run, but I think Bessie won, and then it was like the opposite. I think Mark wrote in the in the magazine that perhaps I should have won.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't. It didn't really.
Yeah.
I remember riding it and really loving it. And Bracknell was a great half pipe as well.
Yeah,
really,
that's right. Yeah.
Really wide. So yeah, that was it. That for me, that was the sweet spot. That was the golden.
Yeah.
Before ramps got too big and lip tricks still mattered.
Yeah.
And it was just ace. And then the skateboard magazine, I was doing that, and then Higginson, after about 6 months, said, I'm shutting it down. I can't make any money out of it. He was into these 0898 numbers, like premium rate phone numbers that he just advertised in magazines, and he wasn't bothered. And he just said, why don't you launch your own magazine? He said, I can give you the contacts of the printer and the distributors, and so me, like just an idiot, said, yeah, of course, I'm going to launch my own magazine, having not really thought about it before, having made a couple of zines. One of them was called Limousine.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was actually. Yeah. I was going to ask you about Trumpton. Did Trumpton start as what first?
The RAD, the Retford and District team, which was all official when we wore uniforms, and then as the scene around the half pipe grew and we became a bit more, street and a bit less uniformy, we needed kind of a new name because Retford and District team didn't really.
Sounds a bit stiff.
Because we were just a bunch of
ragtag kids.
Getting more, not quite ragtag, but there were skaters involved, and it wasn't really a trick team anymore. It was a sort of name to describe the scene around the ramp. It wasn't like an official membership or anything.
Yeah.
So there's a suburb of Retford called Thrumpton.
Oh, okay.
And Trumpton Riots, the Half Man Half Biscuit song. Yeah. So that played on Annie Nightingale one Sunday evening. We heard Trumpton Riots, and then it was like Thrumpton, and then it was like, no, let's just be Trumpton Riot Squad. I think I'd been locked up as well at this point for one night in the prison in Retford for skateboarding.
Oh, no way.
There'd been a riot in the town. I'd been in town, had nothing to do with the riot, and I was skating back with Wellesley late. We'd been skating in a car park or something, bombing through town where the riot had been, and there was police tape and stuff. And this copper just says, "Oi, get off your skateboards." And I was like, "Oh, I suppose." And we didn't want any aggro, so we just picked them up because we were just going to walk around the corner and then skate home. And then the copper just said, "Go home." And I was like, "Oh no." You can tell me to get off my skateboard. There's no signs saying don't skateboard because they didn't exist at that point, but you can't tell me to go home. So I just turned around and just said, "You can't tell me to go home." And he just went, "You were one of the kids who were involved in the riot earlier, weren't you?" And then he's on the phone, and before I know it, I'm locked up.
Oh, no way.
And one of his mates has got hurt in the riot, and he was just riled and pissed. And they have a policy where on Friday, Saturday nights, they just put you in prison for the night and then deal with you in the morning. So I'd spend the night in a cell in the piss-stained little room, and in the morning given this awful, breakfast, and then they just said, "We've decided not to press charges this time." So this riot, the Retford riot, was quite kind of, famous.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess that's where it came. It was then the Trumpton Riot Squad from the Half Man Half Biscuit. Thrumpton was a part. All just kind of
all fit into place
together, and had some shirts screen printed.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, and that was that.
Well, it was never a zine.
I seem to remember there was something called Trumpton Riot Rag, but maybe only did one issue. Limousine was probably earlier. But,
it was earlier?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I'd made a couple of zines, but nothing serious. And then, I just said, right, I'm going to make a BMX magazine.
It was always going to be BMX, not skating BMX?
Yeah, because I think, obviously, I didn't want to compete with Rad, which by this time was full skate. Yeah. And the fact that it was a skate magazine, but I was just deluded, because BMX was dead. Skateboarding was actually on the about to kick off. So making a skateboard magazine would have been a much better, choice financially. But I did it anyway, and went to see the distributor, the distributed skate action, same printer, got some quotes, started shooting stuff, got really, really excited about it. But I was knackered from the start, really, because when you launch a new magazine, all the newsagents, they see it on their list, new publications, they just order one because it's sale or return.
Yeah.
So they can, if no one buys it, they've got nothing to lose. They're going to send it back. So when the pre-orders came in, and I had to print 20,000 copies.
Oh, no way.
Whereas I didn't know how many, because obviously whenever you ask a magazine a publisher how many magazines they sell, they tell you 4 or 6 times more than they actually sell, because they rely on more than one person reading it.
Yeah.
And they obviously want to charge more for advertising, and so I had this huge print bill, had to print 20,000 copies, and then
do you remember what the print bill was?
No, but I remember that it took about 2 or 3 months to find out that I'd only sold 3,000. But by that point, you're committed to printing issue 2, which I knew I didn't have to print 20. The shop said, we're getting a lot of returns. You don't need to print 20,000 of the second issue. So printed, 10,000 of that. But of course, I didn't have the money, so I had to cut down the colour. And then so instead of starting with a zine and building up to a colour magazines, kind of started with this 20,000 print run, and it ended up kind of going down and down till the last one was just sort of mainly black and white, and then the final issue was all ready to go. Will was involved at this point. He'd been a contributor, and I just said, he's still got the letter I wrote him. I said, look, I'm bankrupt. I cannot do this. If you want to take over, if you want, you should do your own magazine. And so he took some of the content that he'd lined up for that final issue, which was never printed, and then of course started Dig. And it's not. I wasn't involved with Dig at all. It was that was his thing, and then. Basically, it just sort of came crashing down. I was bankrupt, but I was in debt, but I didn't want to go bankrupt, so I had to just stop riding. I had to just get a job with a factory in Milton Keynes. Like I say, Mansfield had happened, so I kind of knew I wasn't going to be doing the acrobatic stuff. Yeah. There was a whole load of personal shit I had to deal with as well at that time, and I just burnt out. Yeah. I mean, the contest at Bury was a classic example. I was riding in it in the pro class and trying to photograph and write about it in a magazine. I mean, what do you do? And I think I actually won that because I could beat Bessie at Bury because the ceiling is only 8 foot high. So I could do everything, at the same height as everyone else there. So I think I actually won that. And then I remember thinking, how can I possibly write an impartial or interesting article about a contest that I won without sounding like a total dickhead? And also, how do I photograph myself? And it was just really
became problematic.
Everything was just bitten off more than I can chew, and it's just no regrets. But it was just really intense. So I got out the whole thing, left the team, went to work in a factory. And then eventually got a job as a graphic designer because I'd learned how to make magazines, and then got into new media, CD-ROM, and then internet.
How many issues of BMX now was there?
I can't. I'd made the 5th one, but it never got printed, so there was 4. But learned a lot about distribution and printing and stuff. But I was doing everything, selling the advertising. Producing the artwork, it was. So it was really,
I guess that got old quick, right? By issue 2, you were like,
and of course you don't know what the sales are till months afterwards, and you're already committed to the print run and everything. So, I learned stuff and managed to pay off my print bill. Didn't go bust, and didn't. Try and phoenix the company into something else. Because that happens occasionally. They just transfer the intellectual property and the equipment, bankrupt the company, and then this new company starts. And but they've already got all the gear and all the contacts. I was done. I was done with BMX then, and that was kind of it. I still skated a bit, but I was never a very good skater, so. it's never felt like nostalgic or you know. And then what happened went. Do you remember the magazine though? Do you remember BMX Now?
I've got them.
You've got them.
Yeah.
But,
have you not seen them? But
yeah, no, I've got copies, but I just I never. It was so short. I never really got much of a reaction. It was to try and represent the northern scene a bit more.
That's what I was saying about the covers. The covers were like distinct. I thought they were different.
In what way?
Well, you could tell that something new was going on.
Yeah.
They wasn't like just stock BMX covers.
Right.
So, for instance, I could probably name all the covers. Right? Let me have a go. So Ian was the first cover, was he? Ian Morris? Was he second?
No.
Hold on.
Oh, he might have been.
So wait a minute. Let me have a think.
Oh my God! Come on, you
Lincoln Blacksley.
Nerd game strong. John.
Okay, so I can tell you what the covers are. I can't tell you the order. Ian Morris, Lincoln Blacksley,
yeah,
Johnny Petite,
yeah,
Chris Hardy.
Yeah.
So what was issue 1?
Chris Hardy was on the first.
Oh, he was on the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was number 3.
Yeah, no, I think it was just jumping down some, it wasn't even many steps, but the picture was kind of filled the frame, and it was like, because of course everyone was judging it on who the rider is, what the trick is, and I was on that first issue. I was like, that is not who I'm going for.
Okay.
All the existing BMXers I know are going to buy this anyway. What I want is a
striking
picture, almost like going back to it. It was also almost a bit retro, wasn't it? It was a bit like that blinking Rally Burner advert. It was that. It wasn't.
I'm saying it hasn't stood the test of time, that cover.
No, and it was
purely for the trick.
It probably looked dated when it came out. I'm sure Chris was probably really disappointed with it because it was a test bike as well. It wasn't his bike. It was from the test shoot, so and it wasn't many steps.
But the fact that I can remember all the covers,
is
means that something was in there.
Yeah, no regrets. But
and how difficult was that to cover all that BMX? Because at that point in time, like BMX was completely decimated, and there was nothing. It was really committed people that did it.
Yeah, well, we were always critical of freestyle because they were on the south coast and would cover their team and the people near them. And then that was one of the reasons for doing another magazine. And of course, very quickly realised that trying to cover the whole country on no budget when you're only going to sell 3,000 copies, can't do it. So of course you end up photographing your mates and the people who are nearby. And that I got some criticism with when I was editing Skate Action because Carl Shipman, was close friend and lived round the corner. So that whole scene often got a bit more featured in Skate Action because of the budget I was working on. So that was it really. And then boom, just out of it completely for a while. Occasionally in a skate park, occasionally borrow someone's bike. Yeah. And then I met my first wife, moved to Norway, and became a commercial photographer. Been involved in a little .com business. It got sold. I was able to get out of doing the sort of computery .com, the digital stuff, and be a photographer. And realised that I didn't really know much about photography because all the skate and BMX stuff was basically, the same fish fill in flash. So I started photographing cars and, going around the world shooting annual reports and all of that stuff, like that shot I told you about, and then I was at a lab in Oslo getting some scans done or something, and it was 2 English guys. And one of the guys, I don't know how we got onto it, he said, that he was riding BMX and he was, 10 years. I'd be in my 30s and he'd be in his sort of mid-late 20s. So he said, going to this indoor skate park, do you want to come along? And I just said, yeah, why not? Yeah. And I'd got a BMX for some reason, but I don't think it was one of mine. I think I'd just taken it to Norway. It was a Harrow Shredder or something, massive down tube, but still with the little pegs. We hadn't got the big tube pegs yet. So the bike was probably at least 10 years old. I think I'd taken it over for my son to ride. I'd never really ridden it. So anyway, he comes to pick me up and this is sort of mid-school now, but late mid-school, I guess, where the bikes were starting. They weren't as heavy. They were still a bit heavy, but were starting to look like they do now. And he just saw this yellow shredder with these tiny pegs, and I remember me probably thinking, oh god, I've got to walk into this
Where's this guy?
this guy, I'll maybe send him in first. I've got nothing to do with him. All him and his cool mates, just their black bikes and stuff. But anyway, it was hilarious. Of course, I just got the buzz, got the adrenaline. After a little while, ice picked the sub box, and then and then it was like, oh fucking hell, and it was all coming back, and then I borrowed someone's bike and managed to I broke the shredder and then managed to do a sort of tail whip fly out of the bowl, which was
that's pretty good.
And I literally could not walk the following day.
Oh, okay.
Like I'd used all these muscles that I was knackered, and so I did that for a bit, and then ended up at the Norwegian national champions. And I was all set for doing this sort of 540 over the canyon, even though I haven't done one for about 14
Not
years.
on the shredder?
No, I bought
You bought a proper
bike.
Yeah, okay.
And I tweaked my wrist, couldn't do that. And then they'd got 2 bikes as the prizes, one for the winner of the contest and another in a raffle. And so I didn't compete because I was broken, but I had bought a raffle ticket, and then they announced me I'd won the bloody raffle. No way. And the bike was, of course, a GT Jamie Beswick special, and I was just like, this is hilarious. So I gave the bike away to the kid who'd won the expert class, and and then rode a bit, and then that all kind of petered out, and I sort of badly divorced and moved back to the UK. And then would fly out and go out there occasionally to see my kids, Christopher and Anna.
Okay.
And then moved back to London, and then skated occasionally, not really. Occasionally ride a bike. Somebody else's. Never really got into it, and then moved to Wales. And I guess the vintage revival thing, I kind of got a bit into that.
Okay.
Couldn't face buying a bike that I had owned, but I did build up a really nice sort of 1982 Robinson.
All right.
So when I was racing, that was the because it was Chorley. Alan's up at Chorley and Wigan. Yeah. When I went up there, they were all Robinson team riders, so I kind of built that bike up, and I've still got it. I rode it at around Milton Keynes track, and I actually rode around Hereford BMX track about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, no way.
And that's really lovely. And then
how small is that bike?
Not that small.
No?
I think they were made by GT, weren't they? They were quite long.
I thought just for that
long
point in time they'd be like...
Yeah. No, it feels pretty good. And then we'd got a peak. The only bike we'd kind of got left from the time we were riding was a PK Ripper. So that's built up with
80s one or 90s one?
80s one with all the leftover parts. Still got the flight cranks and DX pedals, so they're still on that bike. So that was kind of And like I said, did a bit of mountain biking, but smashed my scapula to pieces because they're different. I did get to ride with see Zach and stuff, which was nice. He came up to Black Mountain, which was good, and just.
Well, the book. Do you want to stick the book in here?
So
we haven't talked about Paul Daniels yet, but
we do that quickly.
We've been going for a while, so I'm just wondering if you need to be somewhere.
I've got a bit longer. How long can it go on for?
As long as you're
bloody hell, bored. You're bored yet?
No. Okay then.
Do Paul Daniels quickly and then the book.
Yeah. Give us Paul Daniels, because this I think was 1990, right?
Could be, just the most intense.
So Paul, you was on Paul Daniels with who? Dave Blundell?
Dave Blundell.
Okay.
And another guy, Sean, who was Sean White, was it? He wasn't called Sean White. Oh God, that's terrible. I have to look it up. Sean.
What, BMX guy?
Yeah, there were 2 of them, 2 brothers.
Oh,
Sean and Lee.
They were from Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
Clark.
Sean and Lee Clark. Sean was the younger one. So it's me, Blundell and Sean. We did the show. Paul Daniels, hilarious. He grew up near Retford.
Oh, really?
When he found out that I was from Retford, he was like joking, saying, "Oh, I could be your father." And Paul Daniels, he's 4 foot tall, and I was, 20 and maybe 5, 10 or 11, and I just like kind of look down at him and go, no, I don't need to.
So he was a short guy, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Heels, lots of people.
I remember
yeah.
when that, because I didn't see that, but in amongst the London scene, there was like, what? People were so angry. Like, what was the actual show like?
Well, there was no audience. That was all. But we did the trick. So we had 2 quarter pipes. We did a few airs. We had to do all the showmanship stuff, and then Blundell did a 540.
Okay.
Over-rotated it, broke his crank in half. And if you watch it, they just cut out the and then they cut in a bit of him riding away from the ramp, because we couldn't do it. We didn't have any spare stuff, and then we just taped the crank on for the final bit where we climb up into that box, and then they blow the box up, and we've disappeared.
All right.
Yeah, it was just
people were incensed. Like the kids who were like in this area, the 5 kids who rode at that point was like, what is this? They're making it look stupid. People were angry. Well, it was like, is that the vision, like vision gear?
Yeah, well, maybe race uniforms, wasn't it? Vision stuff. Yeah, it was in that crossover. Yeah. There was still a few uniforms knocking around.
Okay.
But that was more the circus. Would definitely be.
It was cool though. It sounds like the experience was good.
Oh yeah.
Did you get money for that? You must have done.
Yeah, I got 500, 600 quid or something. But it was. We didn't get like a royalty thing if it got shown again or whatever. We kind of thought it was just going to be a one-off thing. Yeah, and then we had to climb into this box, and they lift this crate up, and then it got like black felt behind it, and there was these 2 girls waving this flag behind it, so to make it look like you couldn't climb out the back, because you couldn't get through the moving flag, and there was like a cage off the back, and we had to climb through with our bikes and then close the black felt, and then they blew it up, all the wood fell out, and it looked like it disappeared. They did this trick like 3 times. They could have done it with camera tricks. There was no one in the audience, because we needed the audience space to do where the audience would sit to do our act. And it was all unionised. I remember halfway through the act, all the cameras, everything just went off, because the unions were like on tea break. So we all just had to wait. No, it was quite funny. And then
where was that? It was in London.
Yeah, one of the London studios.
LWT or something.
Yeah, and then we did an advert in Holland somewhere for a yogurt drink called Fristy. Dave Frames got a video. That was and I was the idiot there. Again, we'd done all these tricks, and they brought this pink Cadillac in with all these girls, and they were just sat in the back. Yeah, and then we've got like a little trick ramp and a quarter pipe. And I just go to the director. I just say, "Do you want me to jump over that pink Cadillac?" Which wasn't in the script or anything, and he was like, "Can you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." So then this like added. Everyone hated me because then this added on a new shot, because that became the final shot of the advert. But we had to rearrange the whole studio to get enough run up, and it was now late at night, and we had to get back to. And that wasn't very popular.
Oh, they went for it.
Yeah, and I ended up jumping over this, so that was kind of fun. It was right. It was such an intense part of my life, John. It's mad when I think the whole thing was like between 87 and 92. It's 5 years, and it was so much changed. It was so intense, and it was just nothing like it. What I went through personally, and also how the scene changed. Both with biking evolving into something and skateboarding coming back in its new form. It was just mad. And I think when I've thought about it since then and looked through my archive, because I've obviously got all these photographs, but I've always wanted to do something with them. But I knew that I could never do a comprehensive, BMX. Like coffee table book. Like the one Mark Noble did.
Well, why don't you think you could do that?
Because it wasn't comprehensive enough. I photographed 2 races. I wasn't at, Mons and, all those kind of key things. Even that period, to have just said, this is BMX between '88 and '92.
That's weird. I just think you could have. Yeah.
No, but I was in the, I was in the circus.
Yeah, I know. But I just think people will be interested in seeing that regardless.
Well, this is I wanted to do something with it, but it wasn't just going to be a BMX coffee table book. It was going to be BMX and skate.
Yeah.
I could separate the circus stuff. That's a separate project. And then when I'd come back, I'd eventually turned my kind of commercial photography practice into an art practice. I went and did a master's at UE.
Okay.
Because I wasn't, again, not motivated by money.
Yeah.
And I was doing these commercial jobs and I just wasn't feeling the relationship with the money and the quality of the work. So I'd become, an art practice, doing more documentary, more interesting pictures, and then moved to Wales.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I've got to. And then before lockdown, I was like, right, this is the opportunity. Go through the archive. But it was like, what's it going to be? It can't be skateboarding and BMX UK between 1988 and 92 with some of America.
I just think you worried about the title.
No, but it was what the material was, and it was like. And then, eventually I'd been reading all this. Murakami is kind of my favourite author, and it's magic realism is the kind of genre that he kind of works in, and it's always really appealed. And I was like, I'm going to write a book, and it's not all going to be true. Some of it's going to be, this definitely happened, and I'm going to use the photographs. And then I started thinking, it could be, this sort of mystical relationship between the Enchanted Ramp in the States and our ramp in Retford. And there's this kind of transfer of creative energy and inspiration. And then I started developing all these characters based on, one's based on the policeman who locked me up.
Yeah.
The riot, and then you've got the sort of character who's based on cross between Spike Jonze and Wilkerson, and then you've got a very autobiographical, I've got my character as a teenager growing up. And then I started to edit the pictures based on this, and then it didn't have to be BMX or skating, and it didn't have to be a particular time frame, because it was all fictional.
But I don't think the time frame that matters to
it was the only one I'd got to work, because I wasn't shooting before or after that. And then just got really into it, and it just got massive and complicated and just took ages.
How long did that take in total?
It's taken, I guess I've been working on about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, right, yes, I did.
And it kept changing. I had to, looking back through all this stuff, brought up, some of the trauma from, when I quit. So I had to deal with all that kind of psychologically, and I had to deal with that before I could kind of, move on and finish the book. So that put it back a bit, and then, it was just, and then which pictures worked, with the text, and then there was. Different kind of. There was this. How am I going to bring it all together? And then I thought I'll basically use the Paris Bercy event pictures. Yeah. So the character in America and the character in the UK meet at that event, and then it was like, what am I interested in? What is it about? And this is about resisting organised competition. This is what it's about. It's about street riding. It's about. Not being in the Olympics, and that big Paris contest was the kind of start of the the mega, the big events, wasn't it? The skate and BMX stuff. So it developed quickly. I'm just not a good enough writer to have turned it into a really good fictional novel.
Yeah.
So I've broken it up into kind of 5 zines. So there's a lot of text. There's like 30,000 words or something, and about 200 pictures. And it'll be 5 zines. Some of it's entirely made up, and some of it's true.
Have you broke it into a book as 5 zines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it didn't really work as one book.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then there's that whole piece about imagine if you could do a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
And give him all the pain that you'd experienced from a trick. And in return, he'd allow you to make it whenever you want. Like you have this trick, you can pull it anywhere, any conditions. No matter if you're drunk, just woken up, someone else's bike, you've done a deal. You can pull that trick anytime. You can use that to win contests, and it's a comment on the sort of training mentality you have, the Olympic training mentality. This is the trick I'm going to do perfectly, and I'm going to have practiced it so
that's
many
fiction,
times.
but it's kind of not really fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas often in contests, I try something for the first time, or but no one would ever take that risk anymore. So it's taken a while, but I'm really I'm happy with what it is. It's not, I know I'm not a novelist, but I had to go through that process to work it out. I'm just going to stick to reading Murakami, not pretending I can write like that. And it was loads of fun, and I was interested in that idea of how creative energy moves around, and we were doing stuff, we weren't copying stuff over here. There's this idea space concept, that all the ideas are kind of floating around in some kind of cloud, and you can access them at different times, and the same idea might be accessed by somebody 300 years ago, and then there's some sort of field that's connecting this up, which I do believe there are fields that we can't see and measure yet. There's stuff going on that we don't know about, deja vu, when someone's going to phone you, all that. There's other stuff, and maybe creative energy is linked or transferred there. So I got excited about all these themes and started writing this monster.
No, it sounds that's cool. Yeah. I'm into all that stuff. Yeah. What do you watch BMX now? I assume, right?
Occasionally I go skating at Ramp World. Quite regularly, because I like skating plywood. I've never really been into concrete. It's really unforgiving, especially at this age.
What do you think of like the Olympic stuff and stuff like that? Have you actually seen the riding? Or
I've seen some of it, but it sounds dreadful. Steve Caballero wrote a really good post when the Olympics kicked off, and it's really considered, and basically is saying skateboarding, is not an Olympic sport, but being competitive, the competitions that we did in the 80s and 90s were valid. They advanced. The whole thing developed and advanced because of competition, not exclusively, not because we wanted it to be in the Olympics, but it is valid. Competitions are valid, but there's a whole load of us who that's the reason we did it. Was because it wasn't a uniform, organised, binary, nationalistic, we must win, I'm not going to take any chances. Some of those early skate jams and stuff where people, rode naked or, just pissed around, that was, you were there. That's what it was. That was it. And that's the opposite of the, the win mentality and the training mentality of not taking risks.
And not just one person, a few people have brought up the fact that now remember compulsory tricks? Like now in the Olympics, like basically they're all doing compulsory tricks with something added on at the end. It's like, which is insane to think that. Like,
but I mean that that's fine, but it doesn't resonate with me. And one of the kind of conclusions of the working on the book was that basically that period in the late 80s and early 90s, the convergence of skating and street and that change, what that did is keep it out of the Olympics for another 30 years. But we lost eventually. Eventually, it went the way all these things do. The sterilised and the market and the TV and the money. That's fine. These things have to change. They can't stay as they were. But I think that period.
Well, it just breaks it up into different sections. That's how I see it. I see it as playing an instrument. Like you might like this type of music, but you don't like that type of music, and you use the same instrument to do both.
Yeah, but I mean, you've not rejected it. You're still in it when you watch it, but you can tell
I don't even watch it. It comes up on my Instagram sometimes, but it's not something I'm interested in.
And when it does, it's almost sad when I see the start of some spinny flippy thing. And I swipe before he's landed it because it seems so computer generated. But I say it's an interesting discussion, and Steve Caballero definitely nailed it in his mind. It's important, it's valid, it's part of what we do, but it is not the reason. It's not the reason we certainly did it, and it's not the bit that that resonates anymore. But
So
all
right. Well, if you think you've covered it,
Yeah,
I'm
I
good
think,
because we're cracking on.
we've
So.
been.
It's been good though. Thank you very much. Like,
Yeah,
that's
well,
fucking amazing.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to you as well, John, because it's like I think Slade said it, you are sort of a historian. You might not have wanted to be, but by doing this and documenting this stuff and, making an effort,
Thanks, man.
and it's interesting, isn't it, to kind of get it down there.
Yeah, I just want to hear the stories like that.
Yeah, I know.
I want to know. Like, so if I want to know, I thought other people will want to know.
Yeah,
simple as that. Yeah.
But good effort, man, and
thanks, man.
Thanks for doing it. And it's great. And listening to other people's versions of what happened from another angle is just been really exciting. And 20, 30 years from now, somebody listening to this, they'll be somebody could be doing their masters on this, and they'll be using this as like a, what do they call it, primary source or some shit, for like writing this thing about how the evolution of the modern skateboarding BMX.
BMX subculture.
Yeah, no, it's ace, and sorry it's taken so long.
No, man, it's all good. It's come through. Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, cheers.
Cool, man. Thank you. Excellent. Thanks for listening. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.